Calling to order the meeting of January 19th, 2023, regular meeting for PGUSD. Roll call vote, please. Here. Here.
Here.
Here.
Here. Here.
Thank you so much. And I misspoke. It's not a vote. It was just roll call attendance. Silly me. Okay, so next up is adoption of the agenda. Ralph, are there any changes?
We have a few things for you, and they've been provided for you in your blue folder. And I believe that an email went out to you just as a kind of a notation. But we do have one walk-on item as a result of a very long delay in data that came to us, and that's in the SARCs. And so you, I think, received copies ahead of time, and then Director Rogling sent some information for you as well. Those items are available for you there in your blue folder. There is one correction to action discussion item B, which is services contracts for Pedro Torres. It's a ratification. There was a missing checkbox on the fingerprint. It does not need to be pulled out. It's not a substantive change, but the checkbox that should have been printed in the correction is also for you in the blue folder. Is the consultant herself. Fingerprints were done and they were cleared. So just that's an important aspect, I know. And then there were some corrections that were made to the minutes, and that's why they're there for you as well. Again, they were not action item corrections, just some details. In terms of the student representative acknowledgements, the superintendent goals to be added on the board calendar item, and those were taken care of in the minutes as well as the time that Lozano Smith had worked for the district. So those are just some non-substantive changes or additions to the minutes. So they don't need to be pulled either unless you wish to pull them tonight. So I think that's it.
Okay, and just a reminder to the board, if we do have consent items we want to pull, we will do that later in the meeting. So Ralph, I have a procedural question for you.
Sure.
Regarding item, I think it's action K. Yeah, action K. That was about the travel conference, board member travel conference.
Mm-hmm.
I actually have done some more research on that, and I am no longer interested in going this year.
Okay.
So do we take that off now or later in the meeting?
You can do either one you want. You can make it as a change now and remove it, or table it later. I don't know if there's other trustees that wanted to speak to that, and if they did, then we could keep it on, but that's entirely up to the board.
Okay, board, how do you feel? Do you want to keep it on and discuss it later, or are you okay removing it now?
I think it depends on, because it is open to any board member. If there's any board member that is interested, we should leave it on. I'm interested, but not able.
Mm-hmm.
So that's where I'd kind of leave it. If anybody's interested, we should leave it on. But if not, I'd be in favor of just kicking it to the curb.
Understood. Okay. Does anyone have interest, and even if you just have a little tiny bit of interest in talking about it later, feel free to just say, yeah, keep it on. Jen McNary?
I agree with trustee Brian.
Keep it on.
If anyone has an interest, I personally do not. Sorry.
Okay.
I have the same perspective as he does.
Okay. Trustee Otmar?
Same for me.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm unable to attend, so.
And Dr. Hazen?
Yep, exact same for me. I'd be curious a little bit. I don't think we need to leave it on, but I would be curious a little bit about your assessment, but we could deal with that at a later time.
Yeah.
If need be.
Okay. So let's remove that, Ralph.
Got it.
So we'll go straight from, I guess there would be a reorder then. So J would obviously remain J, and then L would be K.
You can, if you will, you can just leave the items as they're labeled, and just K will be omitted, and we'll make a notation in the minutes that it was pulled. That
Okay.
makes it easier for everybody, I think.
It is easier. Okay, thank you. So we are removing K. So if we have any public comment, Director Algazi, none, and any in person. Hi, Billy. Hi, Buck.
I will then move for approval of the agenda with the omission of item K under action discussion, right?
Yes, correct.
I'll second the motion.
Okay, and actually, I was going to ask this too. Can we just do roll call vote for every vote, or do we need to do majority vote? I love roll call votes so that everyone has a chance to say yes or no individually.
Well, it's not typical. Usually roll calls are reserved for resolution, and then when we're through COVID. But I suspect we can change the practice of the board if that's what you like. Up to you.
Are you guys okay with roll calls tonight? See how it feels?
Happy to try it. I'm mainly just if it takes more time, I'd love to keep us expedient, but if we can
I think
try it
it'll
out. and
be
give it a
okay.
test. Yep.
Yeah. Okay. Roll call vote on a motion for approving the agenda minus action item K, please. Aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
I,
Thank you. Motion carries and passes unanimously. Okay, next up is closed session, and what we have on the agenda tonight for closed session is 5 items here. We've got negotiations between PGTA and PGUSD, negotiations between CSEA and PGUSD, a conference with legal counsel regarding pending litigation, public employee discipline dismissal release complaint, and superintendent goals review. Is there any public comment on closed session topics? Thank you. Board, do you have any comments on closed session? Okay, seeing none. In that, we will adjourn to closed session. Coming back from closed session, 6:32. Okay. Welcome back, everyone. We're in open session now. Just want to report action taken in closed session. And information was given, was received and direction was given on a few items, and the items that we discussed are here listed on the agenda. Number 1, negotiations, collective bargaining session, planning and prep for PGTA, the same for CSEA, conference with legal counsel regarding pending litigation. That one the board just discussed. We did not have legal counsel present. Number 4, public employee discipline dismissal release complaint. We did discuss that. And then number 5, superintendent goals review, which I will say I thought was a really productive conversation, but I would like to have that on the next agenda, Ralph, if that's agreeable to you, and of course agreeable to the board. So let's keep that one on for sure. And board, do you want to meet again at 5 o'clock, or what do you want to do for that for next meeting? For closed session, do you want to start at 5 or 5:30? Go ahead, Brian.
I have a thought.
Yes, please. Go
I have
ahead.
a thought, just one. I actually like having just a little bit more time to breathe in closed session. So when I was coming over, I was like, starting at 5, really? Now we're on the other side of it, and I liked, again, that we had a chance to breathe and work through stuff. So
Okay.
I'm an advocate for it. I know it asks a little bit more of everybody, but I'm in favor of it.
Okay, thank you for that feedback. I'm fine with it as well. It may create hardship for the other trustees, so please do speak up if it does.
I'm fine with it as well.
Okay,
I'm okay with that.
Laura, you can make it work.
Mhm.
Dr. Hazen, you're cringing?
Yeah, just a little bit. I was gonna mention there is a conflict with actually a PGMS sporting event that I was hoping to attend. So,
Okay, will you be able to get here by 5:30?
I should, yes.
I think since the majority of the board is able to, what we'll do is you'll just arrive late and we'll make note of that at the meeting.
That would be
Okay,
great. Thank you.
all right, thank you so much. And Ray, I'm not leaving you out, but you typically don't attend closed session, so we would still be starting at 6:30.
Perfect.
Okay.
I think you guys should do whatever fits best for you guys.
Thank you so much. Okay, that concludes the report. Unless anyone has anything to add, the report of the action taken in closed session. And now we're going to move on to the Pledge of Allegiance. So Ray, will you lead us in that? Thank you. United States of America. Okay, thank you, everyone. I remember when I would do that, when I was zooming in, I would stand up in my office at home. I always felt kind of silly, but appropriate. So anyways, written communications, and this is on the agenda because this is time for the board to let the public know what written communications we have received. So I'll go first, and then if anyone else has received additional communications, please do let us know. So I got a communication regarding the 5th grade at Robert Down, and a parent hoping that there would be 4 classes remaining. An email from Access Monterey Peninsula about services for broadcasting the Pacific Grove Unified School Board meetings. Excuse me. An email related to the crosswalk or future crosswalk, it's hard to say, at Robert Down, behind Robert Down. An email regarding signing up for Legislative Action Week or Ledge Action Week through CSBA. I got an email that was a really positive praise from a parent on the PG high school open house, saying that having each department in one room was extremely efficient, especially if you have multiple children there. And also there was a shout out to culinary classes and ceramics and 2D design in that email. And then I see Ray nodding his head in agreement. That's good. We got an email, disappointed person related to athletics being canceled for the power outage, which I totally understand. We got an email praising staff for, I guess, praising the district for closing on the storm day. They felt that that was a move towards a safety move, and they appreciated it. We got an email asking about the standard operating procedures of school closures, which I thought had some great questions in it. We got an email that was criticism of school closures. And then we got an email related to COVID testing at schools. And lastly, I have on my list an email, PG Middle School, some concert links to some YouTubes of concerts. And congratulations needs to go out to the honor band and orchestra for qualifying for their competition. That's what I have, board members. Anything else? That's it. Brian, did you have something? Okay. All right. So we're going to move on. I don't think I need to take public comment on that, but I am keeping my eye. We're going to move on to board member comments at this time. And we're going to start tonight with Dr. Hazen, please.
I hope that everyone, I know it's a few days removed, but I hope everyone had a relaxing and reflective 3-day weekend. I spent some time reading a little bit more about Martin Luther King and just wanted to share one particularly salient quote that probably many in the room are more familiar with than I, but the function of education is to teach one to think intensively and to think critically. Intelligence plus character, that is the goal of true education. So I think that's a good start off for my thoughts tonight.
And that concludes your thoughts, Dr. Hazen? Oh, thank you. Clerk McNary.
Thank you. I too wanted to recognize that Monday was Dr. Martin Luther King Day and also the National Day of Service. And also coming up on Sunday, Lunar New Year is beginning. On another note, I wanted to say congratulations to 2 of our PGHS football players. Noah Gary and Evan Woods were selected as all-star selections, and they're going to be offered to play in an all-star game at the end of this month. So very exciting.
Huh.
I wanted to mention that the Monterey Bay Aquarium is bringing back their community open house for Tri-County residents with proof of residence. And that's from January 21st to the 29th. So for those of us who don't get to go to the aquarium very often, it's an awesome opportunity. I was going to mention that tomorrow, trustee or President Carolyn and I will be attending another session of the Monterey County Office of Education Inside Education Cohort, their field trips. And this month's field trip, we're going to be visiting 3 different sites within the county, and the focus is going to be on looking at their STEAM programs. So that'll be fun. And we get to ride a really cool school bus. And I'm also hoping to check out the trials of Robin Hood at the high school this weekend for its last weekend. So that's what I've got.
Good comments. And I will also just add to the Inside Education comment that is open to the public. If anyone wants to come with us, you're more than welcome. Just send us an email and we'll send you the link to register. Trustee Otmar.
Thank you. I would just want to start off by saying thank you to Dr. Porras and to administration and staff for keeping all of us informed and coming together while we dealt with the impact of that storm. You know, nothing's ever going to be perfect when things come up in nature. And, you know, I think a little bump in the beginning, it sounded like, but after that, I mean, excellent communication. I felt well informed. And I'm really thankful for that. I also had the opportunity to tour Robert Down with Principal Keller. So thank you very much for including me in your day. One of the things I noticed, we were in the basement. It was after that heavy rain. There was water that had pooled down in that basement right around where I think, are they servers that are down there? So there's a beautiful new sump pump down there, but without power, that's not operating. So my question is, I'm curious if it's possible to get a generator down there so that, or a generator that's available that can be hooked up. So if we lose power, that we're not losing servers. And then that brought me to another question I was thinking is, I'm wondering where the main servers for the district are. Are they all housed at one?
Middle school.
Okay. Are there generators hooked up to that? No. Is
There-
that a possibility?
I can speak to that if that's okay,
If- is
but
it all right?
John, I didn't even see you over there. Yeah, I thought you were blocked there for a moment. You want to go to the mic, okay, if that's okay, Madam President, since this is probably a.
Yeah,
important issue.
positively.
Sure.
Thank you for this. Appreciate it.
And as he comes to the podium, John deserves a tremendous recognition for the amazing work that he did through this entire.
So it's
Thank
funny
you.
that you should mention that. Literally the servers in question are actually over at the middle school, correct? Those are the ones that we really need to keep up and running. So we attempted to put generators over there, our portable ones, and the fumes were just too much for the kids and they're loud. So we actually had a discussion, Ralph and I, in the hallway shortly after that about looking into placing a generator possibly on the roof or a natural gas one. Probably going to be a $70,000 project somewhere in that neighborhood. But that's something we're already thinking about. As far as the sump pump at Robert Down, that's a new addition we put in there. More water than any of the crew that's currently working has ever seen down there before. And so it seems to be working, but you're right, no power, no sump pump. So I'll look into putting a battery backup sump pump down there because having a generator in the basement probably wouldn't be a good idea. But a
Bad news.
battery backup would probably work for us.
Okay.
Okay.
Cool. Absolutely.
Okay.
Right on. Thank you so
Thank
much
you.
for everything you did. Yeah. Okay, so that was that. And then one of the things that I wanted to bring up that I just noticed was the elementary school breakfast and lunch menus are online now, and they have a link that you can access and you can actually filter the foods by dietary restrictions and by allergen. So I was pretty impressed with that. And so I wanted just to send a huge thank you to Director Lip for getting that taken care of. That's really impressive. She said she's working on the middle school and the high school now, and that's a big task. So just a huge kudos, and any family that has kids with dietary restrictions or life-threatening allergies, that's big. So thank you so much. And that is all I have.
Okay, thank you, Trustee Otmar. Trustee Brian Swanson.
So a couple of things we received earlier today, these wonderful flowers, and I'm going to pass this note on down from the students at Monterey Bay Charter and Jessica Guzzi, who stopped by earlier, just to thank us for the improvements that have been made to the facility down there, which are remarkable. And I was talking with her earlier tonight about how it's just nice that you can drive through the parking lot without potentially losing a filling in your teeth, but it's really great. And it was so lovely to actually get the flowers and the note from the students too. You can tell they really, really are appreciative of what happened there. So I wanted to share that. And this just popped into my head as we were leaving closed session, but I wanted to remark about it. I mean, the entire staff here within the district, I think, is really remarkable, but in closed session, as we were talking about some of our concerns about the students, it really struck me as to why we're here and where our hearts are. And I have no doubt at all, we are all from different backgrounds and have different concerns and this thing and that thing, but I left closed session tonight really feeling like at the end of the day, what we're here to do is to take care of the students. And I have no doubt in my mind or in my heart that that's why we're all here, why Ray's up here, why everybody out here is here tonight, and that's for the students. And so I just wanted to kind of acknowledge that and say it out loud, that I'm really proud of everybody that's here and what we're doing. We're working hard, we're doing the best that we can, and it's worth pointing out. So that's what I got. Thank you.
I'm glad you felt inspired by closed session, Brian. That makes me happy. That was a cool comment. Thank you. Student trustee, can I call you student trustee, or does it have to be student board rep? I would say student trustee.
Got a
Avila.
promotion.
Yeah, you just,
Yeah.
there you go. New year, there you are.
All right, so yeah, it's been a little bit of a hectic last couple weeks just due to the storm at school. I believe it was last Monday that was the day of school closure, and that morning my mom woke me up saying I had no school. And growing up in California, I think that was my first ever snow day, so that was pretty interesting. But yeah, so today at the school we had our winter sports rally where we recognized all of our winter sports. We've been doing that with the fall sports, and then we plan to do that also with the spring sports. So we had a nice energetic rally today, lots of student participation, which is great. Speaking of sports, basketball team has their Carmel game, or our Carmel game, coming up on Saturday. So that should be a really fun one. Always is. Girls soccer caught a win. I believe it was yesterday. And I made it to the wrestling senior night, and that was really exciting. It got really amped up in there and really loud, and so it was a fun environment to be. It's cool to see some of my friends at their senior night for their sport, so I'm glad I can make it to that. Also the play that's going on right now, the Trials of Robin Hood. Yeah, so it's not put on by the drama class, which is cool. It's put on just by the students, I believe, which is cool. And then upcoming in February is Black History Month, so I plan to run some sort of conversation in my leadership class to see what we can do with that, spread awareness throughout the school, community, etc. So that's all I have for you guys. Thank you.
An excellent update. Thank you so much. I'll go last. So I've got 5 things here. First of all, I went to the automatic, oh gosh, it's the AED training, Laura. What does that stand for? The heart kabump machine? AED. Okay, I forgot what AED stands for. So, but I did retain the information from the training on how to use it. And so I feel great about that because I recently became CPR certified and now AED trained. And that was all because Nurse Katrina sent out an email to all of the staff and extended it to the board members so we could participate that. And that was through the Tyler Heart Institute through Trump. So thank you to all involved in that. I feel more comfortable using that if I ever have to. And then there's just a couple things that came up in my tickle book. So I just wanted to bring them up. Ralph, I had one on for the district, how to gauge summer school success. So just circling back to see, not that you have to answer that now, but if you could bring that up, let us all know how you plan on measuring summer school success.
We'll talk with Dr. Hagquist because I know that he wanted to pursue that. And
Yeah.
so we'll have a conversation with him and have him put something together.
Great. And it's January now, so I'm thinking hopefully that's enough time. I know it's January and that's summer, but sometimes that's not enough time. So please just let me know. And then parking lot names. This is something I've brought up a couple of times. And so I just wanted to bring it up again because it came up in my tickles. And Ralph, did you have any updates on naming the parking lots for state? This is
I thought we sent out to the board. We do have names for them. Director Anderson was helping with that. I thought we sent an email with those on a map, but it may just have been to me and I didn't get them out to you. So we'll get them out. But
Oh,
they're
I'd love to see
they're
that.
not very creative, but they're very descriptive.
That's okay. It's for for anyone listening, the reason I'm pushing this is it's for safety, so we can name them and then also let the emergency response
Sure.
folks know and just
Mhm.
all the parents know if there's anyway. So that was in the name of safety, not just for fun. So also a thank you message to John Anderson and Louis Elgazi and anyone else involved in sending out the Measure D update to the public. You guys sent out that really nice slideshow. So thank you so much. I really appreciated that. I thought it was cool. And then I brought up Ledge Action Week through CSBA in my written communications. And when they sent me that email, I wanted to let the board know I did sign up. And it's free to sign up. And I would encourage any of our other trustees, including Trustee Ray, to sign up. And it's really cool. CSBA puts together these meetings with us and our state representatives. So you get to go on it's usually a Zoom with yourself, and maybe there's only 3 or 4 other folks, and like Senator Laird or Representative Don Addis or something like that. And so anyways, it's really nice. And I've enjoyed that in the past. I've been doing it every year I've been on the board. And those are my comments. Thank you. I was going to turn off my mic, but I'm the person who has to keep talking. So, okay, next up is superintendent report. So please go ahead, Ralph.
Thank you, Madam President. I'll keep it relatively brief, but I do have some thank yous to share. I also want to express gratitude to the patients and understanding the entire community as we kind of worked our way through the power outages. It was unprecedented in regards to the shakeout of how it all played out for everything. And there were no answers to fall back on, really. I mean, except for back to the floods of everyone kept saying, oh, back to the flood of 98 or whatever it may be. And, that's so far distance. But number one, thanking Monterey Peninsula Unified, Marcy McFadden, who's their communications person, worked with Marcy for many, many years. And we tried to align a lot of our reactions and responses with them, since we share a lot of families and staff members that live in the same areas. And so I want to express my thanks to them for always being on the horn with us and helping to draw out what communications could look like and practices could be. And in particular, although I don't want to miss anyone, but in particular, Director Rogaman, Assistant Superintendent Jorn, Director Mankey, Principal Martinez, and Director Algaze were just instrumental in helping to get those messages crafted. It just took all of us put our brains together to try to redraft to be as explicit as we could about what we believed the information was and where we were heading. And I know it's very frustrating for families, and I get it too, having a child in the district. Daycare and dealing with childcare and dealing with a sudden shift in how you're going to run your life is not easy. And totally understand that, and we're trying to keep that foremost in our minds. So I think we were able to get through it safely, which was the most important part. We've learned some lessons, and I think are going to be better for it in the future. So thanking all those folks and all those people that I missed on staff, and also in particular the classroom teachers and the classified staff, everyone on the sites who really just helped manage it to make it work. Speaking of power outages, I do want to make a comment that, again, appreciation to Director Anderson for, he probably knows more about trees in this town now than anybody. And his work directly with TOPS in terms of trying to identify, he was out there, we'd be out there, whatever, 5:30 in the morning, looking at trees and trying to identify what needed to be addressed immediately. And every morning brought a different little mini disaster that we were trying to address. And his crew did a tremendous job of looking out for the staff and the student safety. Just as a heads up, it's going to be expensive to address taking down the trees and getting the trunks taken care of and the soil managed and all of those pieces. We're trying to be very deliberate in how we're making the choices that we make, to be conscious, of course, of the cost, but primarily want to be respectful of the safety of everyone involved. We'll have more reports for you as we go. The good news is that President Biden did declare an emergency for California, which opens up federal funding. So our hopes are that we'll be able to move the costs associated with everything that we did around the response to help recoup some of that money through those funds. No promises, but that's the direction we're heading, obviously, as will every other school district in the state, I'm sure. So, but that's a good piece of news that comes with that, and we'll keep you posted as we go along. Not having anything to do with PG&E, I want to congratulate our art teacher at the high school, Matt Kelly, and his class. And as always, performs amazingly well. If you've never visited his classroom, I encourage you to go. But again, he made us aware that they recently were in a competition again, and 13 of the students received awards and recognition in these art competitions, and it's not easy to gain that kind of status, and really proud of the students. I know that he put out an email with all the awards and the recognition for students, but I wanted to make comment to that, where again, for such a small district in California, we always end up bringing out just the most amazing work with our students, and that's all kudos to our teachers for making that happen. So congratulations to his class and to the work that they did. And last but not least, as I mentioned to the board, next week is the annual state superintendent conference. This year it's here in Monterey, so I don't go away anywhere. I'm here, but I'll be attending that. It's happening from Tuesday through Friday. And looking forward to getting together with about 600 of my colleagues from the state and being able to network, find resources, kind of share common goals together, and looking forward to that. I'll be mostly attending that, but obviously if anything happens here in district, I'll be available as well. So that's it. That's all I got for right now.
Thank you for the superintendent report. Next up is Pacific Grove Unified staff comments. So anyone who works within the district who would like to comment on non-agenda items, please do come up and speak in person. And if you're online, if you're online, please raise your hand and we'll get to you right after the in-person comments. It looks like Buck wants to make a comment. Please go ahead.
Absolutely. Good evening, trustees. Buck Rogeman, the Director of Curriculum and Special Projects. I just wanted to add one more name to the list that Dr. Porras gave for the people that were integral in responding to the flooding that we had. Kimberly Ortiz did an incredible job of building a map that had the addresses and pins of everybody that works for the district. So as we went to decide whether or not we'd be able to staff our schools, we actually had some data that we could look at, and there was a very strategic approach that she took. And so I just wanted to make sure that the public and the board knew just the incredible work that Kimberly did finding subs so that we could keep schools open. Thank you.
Thank you, Buck, for sharing that.
Yeah, go ahead, Principal Keller.
Hi, good evening, board. Sean Keller, principal at Robert Down. We have a couple events next week that I just want to bring to your attention. First off, we have site council at Robert Down that will be on Monday, starting at 3:30. That will be a virtual meeting. And then we have an elementary night with Forest Grove at the PGHS girls basketball game on Thursday evening. And then the next night we have our bingo night at Robert Down in the cafeteria, and that'll start at 5:30 and bingo starts at 6, and we'll have some pizza available. Come on by.
Bingo. Thank you, Mr. Keller. And then I'm looking online. So Barbara Martinez, I see your hand raised. Please go ahead.
Hi, good evening, board. Good evening, everyone. Barbara Martinez, principal of Pacific Grove Adult School, director of safety. I just really wanted to share with everybody, you, the board, and the community, one of our successful programs that we have at the adult school. We have many programs, but right now I just want to shine on our Adults with Disabilities program that we have at the adult school. We partner with Gateway to provide our Without Walls program. We have currently 19 students enrolled in our program, many who have graduated from Pacific Grove High School, many in our community. You know, our purpose is to provide access for everybody, right? In adult education, our purpose is to provide access for all our programs, for the least restrictive environment. And no matter what your barriers are, we're going to help you. And so I just wanted to say that we start MPC classes with our Adults with Disabilities Monday. And we're going to have 4 Pacific Grove Unified School District vans in the parking lot on the first day of school at MPC. And we have 1 on the way. I have a van that we are going to order because we have a wait list. And so I'm just so proud of our students. We're going to be taking adaptive PE, and we're also going to be taking study skills. We've got our aides that are going to push into all of the classes to support our students. In addition to that, I wanted to let you know that we purchased 30 seats for Serve Safe or Safe Serve food handlers cards for all of our students with adults with disabilities and others in our high school diploma or any other community member who wants to receive that certificate. In order to serve food and to be qualified to do that, we're going to be serving cappuccino and donuts and provide our students with the opportunity to learn commerce and to learn financial planning. And we have contract with the aquarium to do our volunteer work. Our students have been working hard in the computer lab, writing articles like you've seen in the last newsletter from the district. And I'm just so proud of everything, of all of the goals that our students are meeting. So I couldn't have done this without the help of Gateway and also our own staff. Claire and Lorraine have just been such a support to the program and the integration of our transitions program and our adults with disabilities program. I'm very proud. And I just wanted to share this happy moment with the board with that. And then finally, I just wanted to say thank you to John for this past storm. The adult school really kind of weathered the storm, if you will. We lost 5 trees and a tree came down on the transitions program, our 18 to 22 program. And we found a classroom that's right next door to our adults with disabilities program. So no program was interrupted throughout the storm. So thank you for their support as well. And for John for getting TOPEs out to the adult school as soon as possible. He's just been, he and his whole team, right? John and his whole team have been so great. So that's my report. Thank you.
Thank you, Barbara. I remember when that program was just a handful of students just starting off. So it's really great to hear that it's so popular now. Thank you. I don't see anyone else online. And just for anyone who's just joining the meeting, we're asking for Pacific Grove staff who wants to make a comment on non-agenda items. And I'm going to move on from this item now. So next up is our kind of a general opportunity for members of the public to address the board. And public comment from members of the public can be really on anything that's within our board's jurisdiction. Excuse me. And then just so you know, if your item that you want to comment on is within the agenda, we allow for public comment on each individual item as we go through it. So that will be coming later in the meeting. And typically we give about 3 minutes for each speaker and no more than 20 minutes per item in general for the same item. And I'm not seeing very many hands go up right now, so I don't think we're going to run into that tonight. But I would like to call now for any public member who would like to address the board, either in person or online. If you're online, please raise your hand and we'll get to you. If you're in public, the podium awaits. I'm looking at you, Ms. Shmas. You're the only member of the public here. So if you'd like to make a comment, you would not. Okay. And I'm looking online, so I'm just going to give about 10 seconds for anyone online who's trying to maybe figure out how to raise their hand. Please do so. We would love to hear from you. Louis, do you see anybody? I do not either. Okay. All right. Well, I'm excited to hear comments later in the agenda then. So now we're going to move on to consent agenda. And this is a time for any member of the public or the board to have, if they have questions on any of these items, please raise your hand. Let me know. I'm first going to look out into the board to see. Aha, Trustee Otmar, please go ahead.
I'm going to apologize in advance because I didn't send this over earlier. So I have more than a few things I'd like to pull.
Okay.
I'd like to pull A.
Okay.
I'd like to pull D.
Okay.
E. And H.
And H. Okay, thank you. And if you have substantive comments, Laura, about those 4, then we can pull them. If you just want to, say something quickly about one, like, oh, I really like that this is happening, something like that, then we can do that now and not pull it. So I don't know if you have any that were just more?
They're questions that
Okay.
I wanted answered.
No worries.
I would like to make a comment about L, contract for services with Playworks Education. I thought that sounded extremely interesting, and I would be interested in going over to Forest Grove and just kind of taking a look as that's happening, or just hearing back about how it goes. After
Okay.
that, I was really interested in that.
I'm actually planning on pulling L, so you might hear more about it. And we have a individual from Playworks online who I hope is going to give us more information as well. So I'm excited for that one.
Great.
Trustee Brian Swanson, any consent pulls? No. Okay, thank you. And I already told you mine. Student trustee Avila, do you have anything you want to pull from consent?
No.
You're good. Dr. Hazen? You're fine. Okay. Clerk McNary?
No, nothing in addition to these.
Okay, thank you. And I'm looking for members of the public who would like to pull something from consent agenda. We're on page 3 and 4 of our agenda. I don't see anyone in person. And I don't see anyone online. So I'm going to make a motion to pass consent agenda and with the exception of items A, D, E, H, and L, and we're going to move those straight to essentially A of action discussion. So do I have a second on that?
I'll second.
Thank you. Motion made by Carolyn, seconded by Brian Swanson. Roll call vote, please.
Aye.
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 Okay, thank you. Motion passes unanimously. So now we're going to, Laura, if you wouldn't mind, if you want to discuss, let's start with what is now action. Should we call it action A? Go ahead.
Okay, thank you. So this is the minutes for the meeting of 12:15. I wanted to see if we could amend those minutes under action discussion C. I believe that was superintendent comments for COVID. There was a discussion that happened about Katrina Powley bringing Narcan and AED and EpiPen into centralized locations on campuses. And that wasn't documented in the minutes. And I thought it was really important that that was in there. One, to call attention to Nurse Powley, because that was a big effort on her part and it's very important. And also just for record. There's also the Narcan training that wasn't mentioned as well. So if we could amend that, I would appreciate it.
I'm wondering, Laura, I know what you're talking about. I almost wonder if those were in the minutes on B for January 5th's meeting. Was it the last meeting that you had that conversation with Katrina, or was it the one that you got sworn in on?
It was, I believe it was the 15th, because I'm looking at it, and what triggered me to look at it or to rewatch the meeting in that area was it says that I asked about EpiPen doses and pediatric levels. So unless that was in the wrong spot, I believe that this is correct. Would have been the 15th.
Okay. Sounds good. Any other comments on item A?
I just had a question on how the minutes are kind of reported. Is that through video? Is that a rewatch of the meeting, or is that live that happens?
It's live. Mandy takes notes as we're moving along and take the notes. Traditionally, board minutes are action minutes, and really actually they're more, usually we're a lot more trimmed down than this, just simply what action was taken. And then if there were any discussion items noted, it was anything that applied directly to the course of the action. And then the board, as we moved in further down to COVID about 1.5 years ago, the board had asked to try to put more into the comments section. So we tried to include as many of those as we could. If we were to do it verbatim, it would be really long. And so
Sure.
the idea was that we record the minutes so that anyone could access it immediately on site and be able to go to the section that they'd like to. So that the minutes again were be reflective of kind of summary action minutes only. So not everything is included because again, we're trying to keep them brief to that action minute format. But at the same time, trying to add a little bit of detail so that people get a flavor of the conversation. So not everything gets included on there.
Of course. Yeah.
And so this is the opportunity, certainly if the board felt like there was more that needed to be added, we could do that, or if, yeah.
I suppose for me, I was just looking back at that same meeting and there is a lot of the meeting dialogue that is made it into the minutes. So I just wanted to make sure that that made it in, because at the beginning of that meeting was a lot of I mean, it was honoring past service, so I appreciate that very much. But I think it's important that that's in there. And I just was curious about how the minutes are collected and just so they're accurate to the discussion that's happening. I think things like that, like Narcan, AED, EpiPen, that's something that would be useful to be in the minutes. I think it's important. So.
Yeah,
you
thanks
that
for bringing that
information.
up, Laura, because it is important to give kind of that overall feeling of what took place. So,
Right.
and that's why I do appreciate too that they're on the consent agenda for us to read. And that's exactly what we should be doing, is reading them and making sure that what's in there should be in there. And it's not a perfect process. Doesn't mean the person doing it is imperfect, but it just means
know,
that
it's-
yeah, just means that if there's something missing, we should bring it up. So are there any other additions to action item A, which is minutes of December 15th board meeting?
Not for me.
Okay. Laura, would you like to make a motion to accept it?
Should I move to accept action item A?
And I'll second that. Roll call vote, please.
Aye.
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 Okay, motion passes unanimously. Thank you so much.
Madam President, if I may, just
yes,
in
please.
thinking about what we're calling these items to make it easier in terms of tracking.
Yeah,
Would it be okay if we perhaps call it pulled consent item A? So it
Sure.
still stays within the format of the agenda, because we already have an action A that the public knows is action A, so I don't want to start creating
Yes.
confusion.
I love
And
that. Thank you
if
so
that's
much.
okay, we can just call it that, and that way it readily identifies for the members of the public as well.
Pulled consent A, that's what you, instead of action. Okay, sure. Okay, so next is pulled consent D, classified assignment order number 10. Laura, that was one you pulled, so please go ahead. Oh, pardon me. Thank you so much. I'm unable to tell what thank you. Go ahead, Barbara.
Hi, everybody. I just wanted to make a comment about the Narcan training. You know, we have a contract with the state to disperse some Narcan, and we've been training our staff. We have online training, and any staff member or our coaches or parents actually who take the online training and can verify with that certificate after the training, we can disperse Narcan, a dose of it, to any member who comes to the adult school. We track it, we document it, and then we report back to the state. So I just wanted to let you know that we are on top of it with our staff. All district staff has been notified that they can access this training. And even if they've gone to the Montage Health training in the past, they can come forward and sign a document saying they were there at the training, or they completed the online training and have that certificate, and have that Narcan available on their person. So I just wanted to remind the board of that. That's all.
Thank
You're
you so
welcome.
much.
Of
Thank you so
course.
much.
Of course.
Okay, so pulled consent item D, if you want to go ahead, Laura.
Yeah, this was just a question for Director Menke. So this leave of absence looks like for Forest Grove Noon Duty Supervisor. So now through the end of the school year, I just wondered if there was somebody that was going to be filling that position temporarily, to have somebody out on noon duty, or if that's just going to be a completely vacant position, or kind of what the plan was there.
Right. Yes, the position, we will advertise and try to find someone to fill in. We have a couple noon duty positions available throughout the district.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Appreciate it.
right, any other board members have questions about pooled consent D? No, and anyone member of the public? I don't see anyone and neither does Louis. Okay, thank you so much. I'll make a motion to approve pooled consent item D, which is classified assignment order 10. If I can get a second.
Happy to second.
Thank you, Dr. Hazen. Roll call vote, please.
Aye.
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 All right, motion passes unanimously. Thank you so much. Moving on now to pooled consent item E, which is acceptance of donations. Laura, please go ahead.
So this question's, I guess, for Assistant Superintendent Jordan, who's not here. So Dr. Porras, perhaps you can answer this. My question was just about the donation from Lozano Smith. That just caught my eye because that's legal, and I just wondered about there's a $1,000 donation there. So I didn't know if you could expand on that.
Yeah, they like most law firms have a fund for donations for community service or for service for schools. And they allocate a certain amount that's available. And so this was for the Book of Joy that we were distributing to all staff. And so they felt that that was a good cause to make sure that we were able to get that to everyone. And so they were able to contribute to that.
Oh, very cool. And thank you to them because it's a great book. I appreciate it. Okay.
Okay, any board members have any questions about that item? I don't see anybody. And then really quickly, I'm looking here in person and online for any public who wants to comment on that item. Nobody, I don't see anyone. Laura, would you like to make a motion?
Yeah, I'll move to pass pooled consent E.
I'll second that. Roll call vote, please.
Aye.
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 Okay, motion passes unanimously. Thank you so much. We're moving on now to pooled consent item H, which is the out of county or overnight activities. Laura, please go ahead.
Thank you. So my question here is about the number of students that are traveling in each car for these excursions. On page 38, it shows that there will be 5 adults with 36 students. I don't see that there's a school bus listed. It says auto. So including Craig Bell, that's 6 adults with 36 students. So that would, I guess, be 7 people per car. So, and it's the same for a few of the others. So I guess I just wanted to kind of clarify how they're getting there and how 7 people are fitting in each vehicle, and maybe everyone has a minivan. I don't know. I just wanted to clarify that.
I see Lito making his way.
Lito Garcia, principal of all the high schools. So when our parents offer and are cleared through our district office to drive, everybody has a seat in the car. So it's never been a concern in transportating our students. So we're able to meet the needs. Just grateful that parents can provide that. Our coaches do use our school vans as well to transport the students, and we're lucky enough at the high school to have 2. So that adds to what you see there.
Okay, perfect. So it'll be a school van plus parent.
Yeah, so we have
Cars,
2 vans,
basically.
and
Okay.
our employees, which are our coaches, are the drivers of those vans.
Okay, cool. And all the parents that are driving are listed here, correct?
And yes,
Okay,
and
all
they
right.
are approved through our district office to do that. They've filled
That
out
makes
all
sense.
the appropriate paperwork.
That makes sense. Thank you very much for clarifying that.
You're
I
welcome.
appreciate it.
Lito, are those the 2 Dodge Caravans by the tennis courts? I
Those
have
are
always wondered. what
red
those-
and gold.
Thank you so much. Okay.
You bet.
All right. Thank you for answering my little question that I threw in there. Laura, do you have any further questions on this one or any board members? No, you're good. Okay. I don't see any board members having questions. Ray, you don't have any questions?
No, all good.
Okay. All right. Members of the public, I'm looking online. I'm looking There's nobody online. There's no one in public. So if someone would like to make a motion on this, please do.
I'll make a motion to pass hold consent H.
I'll second that. Roll call vote, please.
Aye.
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 Great. Motion passes unanimously. Moving on to L, which is actually one that I was pulling and perhaps others, but this is a contract for services with Playworks Education. And hello, I see Principal Irene's making her way to the podium. So I would like to know a little bit more about the program. It sounds wonderful. I went on the website, but I do have, one of my questions is it going to be kind of a pilot program at Forest Grove and then maybe implemented at Robert Down? That was one of my main questions, but I'm here to listen.
Good evening. Congratulations. I did not get to give congratulations to the new board members and also congratulations on your new posting as president. So Irene Preciado, principal at Forest Grove Elementary. I tend to be shy, so I usually don't come up to the mic. But this is really an exciting opportunity to talk about Playworks. As the staff and I, leadership in particular, began to discuss the needs for Forest Grove, we knew we wanted to restructure our recess time. So we considered different programs. Playworks was one of the top choices because not only have I had it at my school, had the privilege of having Playworks, full Playworks. Today, we have Calvin, he's already been promoted to talk to us about the program. But I wanted to tell you, my experience has been nothing but spectacular. Students are able to build leadership skills. Students are engaged. Students learn how to play in a way that is productive and engaging. So they really learn skills that they can take for life. So we definitely want to bring in the program. Unfortunately, they did not have anybody to come in full force, full time, but the program that they will offer will allow us to get started. We also have 2 of our staff members who formerly work with Playworks, so they know the program well, and some of our teaching staff also are familiar with them. So our leadership and staff were very happy to bring them on board, and I'll give a mic to Calvin. Thank you for joining us, Calvin.
Hello, thank you for that amazing introduction and good evening to the board. My name is Calvin Hamilton and I am the Regional Partnership Director for Playworks California. And I just want to take a few moments. I'm going to share some slides with you. I promise I'll be very brief, but I just want to give a brief overview of Playworks, what we are, what we do, and more specifically, the program that we're going to be piloting at Forest Grove. And so in Playworks, we are a nationwide nonprofit and our focus is recess. And we work with elementary schools all across the country to make safe and healthy play happen during recess. And we really believe in the power of play to bring out the best in every student, right? And we do that in a variety of different ways. The slide that you can see here right now, this is our theory of change. This is how we believe change actually occurs through play and through recess time and impacts the entire school community, right? So these 3 items that you see here, these are the outcomes that we want to see at schools through play. We want safe and healthy communities, communities where kids are experiencing social and emotional physical well-being, right? We want to see recesses that are safe and healthy, right? Where kids go out to the playground and they're physically safe and they're also emotionally safe. And we also believe that we want to see safe and healthy play practices, right? Recesses where students are developing those social and emotional skills, where they're interacting with other students, right? Especially since many of our students were home for so long. And we believe to get that, you need Playworks best practices, engaged adults who are also passionate about play, and dedicated partners, such as the ones that we have at Forest Grove. And this is our great recess framework. What we want at every recess is we want safety, engagement, and empowerment. And ultimately how we get there is by way of dedicated staff, safe, healthy, and inclusive games, and also clear and effective systems that still allow for students to play, have a good time, but in a very structured way, in a way that still allows them to have choice every single day. I have a lot of slides here, but I'm going to go through them very quickly. These are just a few of the services that we offer. This is not an exhaustive list. We provide on-site support, staff training, consultative support, and the program that we're going to be implementing at Forest Grove is called a Recess Reboot. And you can see that on the far left side. And the Recess Reboot is where we are going to be on site for 4 consecutive days, and we're going to be doing a complete revamp and a complete overhaul of recess. And so what we're going to be doing is we're going to be teaching the students directly different and new games that can be played every day. We're going to be helping the school to revamp the systems outside at recess. And we're also going to be, most importantly, intentionally working with and developing the classified staff, those supervision aides at recess, and giving them the tools, giving them the skills to be able to provide that safety, engagement, and empowerment, so that by the end of the 4 days, the staff have a clear plan as to how they're going to implement the games and the systems, and so that their capacity has been built to not only make the environment at recess a safer and healthier one, but ultimately to build their capacity and to make their jobs easier as well, right? So I'll pause there and I'll stop. And that's just a very, very brief overview of PlayWorks.
Any questions for Calvin?
Thank you, Principal Irene, Dr. Irene, I should say. And thank you so much, Calvin. Board, do you have any questions? And Ray, do you have any questions? We went through our schools and played at recess more recently than any of us here.
Yeah, I did. No, that all sounds good. I like the idea of that. Sounds promising.
Okay. Yeah. And I'll go out to the public to see if they have any questions or comments. And we welcome comments from members of the public as well as staff members. So just give it just a moment to see if there's any questions, comments. Just give it a moment. Yeah, go ahead, Dr. Hazen.
Just one quick question is, do you have in place any kind of measurable aspects of this implementation to see like, what is it changing, like through less conflict, things like that? Just would love to be able to get a report back on how it's going.
Definitely. Yes.
Yeah, and I can also share that we will be taking surveys of all the staff to measure the outcomes of the program afterwards. And additionally, we have also, if I can share my screen very briefly, we have taken data from all of our partners all over the country that we partner with. And I can definitely share these slides with the principal afterwards, but these are just a few of the statistics of how we know PlayWorks does impact schools and recesses. So we know that PlayWorks leads to, a 43% difference in the amount of students that are actually engaged in physical play. Help your mind, students are, after recess, a PlayWorks recess, they go back to the class ready and focused and ready to actually jump back into instruction, right? Instead of teachers having to put out all the fires that happen at recess. I do have some other slides that show some more statistics, but I'll stop there. These are just a few of the data points that we've been able to collect over the years.
Thank you so much, Calvin. You have really good instincts on how to keep a meeting going, and I appreciate that. Yes, go ahead, Trustee Otmar.
A question about, so 4 days is the PlayWorks will be on campus, and then maybe I missed it in the slide, but as far as staff training goes and continuing on with the structured recess and structured play, that's something that's included so that this can kind of continue on. And then is this something that repeats annually, or is this?
So I'll let Calvin answer the first part and I'll answer the second.
Yeah, definitely. So in terms of your first question, yes, it is 4 consecutive days. And the way that the week is built is we have, in addition to coaching the supervision aides at the morning and the lunch recess, we'll also be doing daily check-ins and debriefs out on the bookends of the recesses to allow time to actually develop them, talk a little more and create a plan. And then we also do a 2-hour action planning session on the very last day with the recess team to create a clear plan as to how the games and the systems are going to be sustained into not only the remainder of the year, but into next year as well, because we're not only focusing on games, but we're focusing on systems that will outlast us being there, so that even into next year, if we need to come back and touch things up, absolutely. But we're hoping that the outcomes that are achieved in those 4 days will outlast and go in from this school year into the next school year as well.
Yeah, additionally, the goal, in answer to your first question, President, was that we do want to work with Robert Down. So the goal is to have Robert Down come in and visit as we implement the program. Ideally, I would love to have Playworks come in and be there full time. Originally, when I reached out to Calvin, that was my intent, is to have someone come on over and be there full time. I had a coach at my school that came in about 9 in the morning, was there till 5, and really presented a really wonderful program. A young gentleman that came in, probably early 20s, told me he was going to restructure my whole program. Sure. I was very incredulous because he was so young, but Playworks really does a great job of training all of their staff. They bring people in who really believe in students and know the capacity of building leadership. And he really turned the school around. Within a few hours after looking at my playground, he came back and really laid out a structure of what could be. And now I'm a believer, because I was able to see the difference at my school before Playworks and after Playworks. So when I spoke with Calvin, I told him, you don't have to convince me. I'm a believer. I just want to know what you have available. Because we are remote, he did not have a coach to come to site. And Reboot will allow us to move forward with a very structured, very progressive way of supporting students. And again, giving them skills and leadership for our 4th and 5th grade, who will be working side by side with our non-supervisors. And our teachers will also be trained. So for those 4 days, they're going to be in a rotation of supervision so that every teacher has an opportunity to learn about Playworks and have a coach right next to them.
Thank you so much, Principal Irene. I'm looking at the board to see if there's any questions. And I'm also curious if there's anyone online, because otherwise we will entertain a motion. Thank you, Louis. Nobody online. Okay, I'd like to make a motion to approve pulled consent L contract for services with Playworks Education, if anyone would like to second.
I'll second the motion.
Seconded by Clerk McNary. Roll call vote, please.
Aye.
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 Passes unanimously. Thank you to Calvin for zooming in this late at night, and thank you, Principal Irene, for your presentation. Okay, moving on to action discussion. It's about 7:30 right now, just as a little bit of a time check. Moving on to action discussion, we've got up now action A, which is district update on response to COVID-19. Take it away, Ralph.
Madam President, I'll try to keep it brief, but there's a one matter of change that's important to note. First off, just as always, received the weekly update regarding just the data that we've always been receiving from the county. Again, seeing a decrease in the testing positivity rate, which is a good thing, and to 6.6 at this point, and the case rate decreasing to 4.8 for every 100K. Again, we're just seeing sort of a wave in and out of that median. And so we'll continue to take a look at that information as we go, but I think probably more important, at least in terms of how it affects our community. As you know, on February 28th, Governor Newsom has ordered the expiration of the emergency state of COVID-19, which means a lot of things, financial anyway, and support. A lot of the testing sites and facilities and programs that you see throughout the state are going to be closed down because the funding that operates them will also go that way. The California Department of Public Health at this point has let all schools know, stand by. We'll have more information to you in regards to what services schools can expect, but we don't have any of that information yet. And my guess is we're not going to really have a whole lot more from them, at least until after the 28th. And so we're keeping a close eye on that. Nurse Pally is very well aware, and she's got all her contacts on speed dial. So we're just waiting to see what will come of that. We did find out I will say unexpectedly and suddenly, this past Wednesday, we were informed by OptumServe, who does the testing here every Monday, that their testing site here for the community has been decommissioned. So all of the stuff that's in the back of the boardroom will be going away. They will no longer be offering the PCR and antigens testing here. Virus Geeks continue to do their testing services at the Methodist Church here in Pacific Grove, as well as over in Portola Plaza and at MPC. Those will still be open for a while anyway. So that service will no longer be here. When we did a very quick conversation with them, they weren't getting a lot of people here. Obviously, it was of value to the people who needed it, and it's unfortunate, but we don't have control over that. We do know that, again, we're going to get more guidance in regards to what kind of school testing will take place, and if there's any resources that come our way, we will report on that. I think also important to note that as of now, since we don't know what's going to happen with the PCR testing and antigen testing, there have been some requests from the community in regards to, can we engage with other testing groups to continue a district system? Nurse Pally highly recommends that we hold off until we hear what's happening, so we know exactly how it's going to impact and affect students. We will continue to maintain our current initiatives for home test kits, all the masks that will still be available for students and staff that we've had in place, and obviously, especially for those folks that are symptomatic or at high risk. And so we'll have all of those pieces still in play. She asked, and I recommended that we continue to budget into next year in regards to some of our resources, in particular masks, because it's still a pretty big unknown. And so we will, at this point, rely on our take-home test kits. And if they're used repeatedly within a certain daily cycle, they'll still provide you pretty accurate information until we hear more from the California Department of Public Health. Pretty much in our conversations today with the county superintendents, everyone's pretty much following that same path right now as we see what's going to happen. So that's a little bit of a change for us that you'll see. Otherwise, I know that Nurse Pally will have in the newsletter additional vaccine sites that continue to exist out, as she always has been putting out for us. The dashboard continues to be updated. And again, pleased to see that we have very low cases in the district, and so that's a great thing. Also the school stock supply of the 10 adult dosed EpiPen boxes from BioPharma arrived, which now is going to be distributed tomorrow to the high school, to the community high school, middle school, Robert Down in Forest Grove. So that's in process, and she'll give us a little report back on that as well. And each of these sites will receive 2 boxes of the adult dose EpiPens. And then last but not least, President Carolyn, you mentioned this. She will also post in the newsletter continued training for the automated external defibrillators.
Thank you.
And so those will be happening on the 19th and then on the 23rd of February. And so there'll be more opportunities for folks to sign up for that training if they'd like to do that. And so you'll see that in the newsletter as well. So that's all I have right now from Nurse Pally. And she plans on being here, not at the I think at the next meeting. I think she's going to try to be here the meeting after to make another report in person, but her son is on the teams that are doing lots of games right now. So she's busy being mom, which is awesome. So that's it.
Thank you for that report. I'll go to the board first, and then go out to the public. So if you're a member of the public online and you would like to comment on this, please raise your hand now. We'll get to you in just a moment. And board members, I'm just going to kind of go through methodically. So Brian Swanson, you have nothing. Okay, thank you. I'm actually next on the list, so I guess I'll go. So these are in no particular order. Ralph, just planning wise, do you think that, and this is a question for the board too, should we keep the COVID update on our agendas past March?
Well, it's up to the board. I think at this stage of the game, part of the reason that we had this on initially was that we could take action if necessary, if something was happening imminently, which was happening a lot.
Yeah, it was valid to have it.
We had it on just for that case. I will say that during the course of all things COVID, it actually was, I think, served really well for the community to just constantly be in tune with what's happening. After that date, I'm not sure there's going to be a whole lot more to report until I hear back from the California Department of Public Health. I'm happy to have present whatever I have when I have it, but I can certainly do that during my superintendent's report. Or if there's something that requires action, we can walk on something that meeting as well. But
Mhm.
again, whatever your pleasure.
That's what I'm leaning towards, but up to the board, of course. Dr. Hazen's nodding. I don't know. Brian's nodding. Okay. Laura's nodding and Jen. Okay. So let's move forward with that. Remove this starting in March.
Start the first meeting in March?
Yeah, first meeting
Okay.
in March. And then would you mind talking to us a little bit about mask availabilities for kids and adults? As you can tell, I'm still wearing a mask. There are certain families who don't have the kind of ability or privilege to feel comfortable taking off masks, that maybe they have someone vulnerable in their families. And so we also have a lot of families who just prefer it. So yeah, can you just tell me about the availability for student masks and adult masks through the end of the school year, please?
Yes, that will not change. We still have our supply all the way through the end of the year. Taking into the current pattern of usage, we're supplied up. And as I mentioned, I've already spoken with Katrina to take a look at ordering 4 into the next school year. So we should see no change in that availability, at least for the end of the school year. And so any folks that need it can certainly continue to request them or get them as they need to, and we'll have them on sites in the whole case.
Okay, thank you. That does it for my questions. So now I'm gonna go back to my list here. Student trustee Ray, do you have anything?
No, I got no questions. Thank you.
Nothing. Okay. Dr. Hazen?
Nothing to add.
Okay. Clerk McNary?
No questions.
Okay. Trustee Otmar?
I have a question, of course.
Good.
So my question is the EpiPen. This may just need to be directed to Katrina, but you said that adult doses were going to be delivered to the high schools, the middle schools, and the elementary schools. I just want to make sure that pediatric doses are delivered to both elementary schools.
Yeah, I believe that's correct, and it's not listed here, but if I'm incorrect, I'll make sure that Nurse Pally gets the correct information.
I'm sure that she's on it, but I just wanted to clarify. Thank you very much.
Good question, as always, Trustee Otmar. Any public comment in person or online? I'm not seeing either. Okay, I hate to miss anybody, but I'm going to move on. So that concludes that item. And since there wasn't really any action besides just directing to take it off in March, I don't believe we need to take a vote on that. If anyone disagrees, you can let me know. Okay, moving on to action item B. And now there's going to be several of these. There's actually a whole page and maybe then some ratification of certain contracts for services. So starting with action B, ratification of contract for services with Pedro Torres. And that is a Sean Roach item.
And this again, as we noted, this was the issue with the fingerprint, and then after the fact, based on that item. So
It's been remedied.
corrected. So that's all been corrected and everything. So I don't know if there's any other questions. If not, I don't think there's any additional to report. Most of these are going to be as the ratification. We tried to include as much information as we could ahead of time. So, but we're happy to present if you need.
Okay, thank you, Ralph. Board, I do see Jason Tovani has his hand up. Is it okay if I skip to him before I ask you? Okay. Mr. Tovani, please go ahead. Mr. Tovani, you're muted right now.
Now it's been about a year since I've done that. So
Sorry.
my mistake right there. Good evening, everybody. Jason Tovani, assistant principal at middle school. I just raised my hand because I am here to speak in Mr. Roach's place. So if you have any questions about this, I'm your guy.
All right, thank you so much for being available. Board, do we have any questions? I'm just going to kind of look at you guys and look for a head shake. Okay. Trustee Otmar does have a question. Please go ahead.
And this actually would be directed, I believe this is going to be to Director Menke. Just a follow-up fingerprinting. I believe it was last meeting we talked about possibly asking, instead of a self-attestation, possibly doing something with live scan, the way that we do with parents on campus. And I just wanted to see if there was a follow-up to that.
I can share the follow-up with you. Yes, we're working on that with legal counsel. So that will be removed, and we'll be working through our live scan process here at the district office. And Tom Maniello, who's at Lozano, is working with us on some of that. So we're getting that shifted and arranged. It just didn't show up because these forms are still carry over from the last time, but we're making sure that any of those that fell into that category were being taken care of. And in this case, he was fingerprinted and it came back approved.
Oh, please come up to the podium. Sorry, Billy. Take your time.
Thanks. Sorry, I made you get up. Okay.
Yeah, I just wanted to let everyone know that we have actually had some of the DJs that I think our school sites are planning ahead, and they've come and completed their paperwork at the district office and then had their license.
Cool.
So
Thank you so much
You're
for that. I appreciate that. That's the only question I had.
Okay, thank you so much. Mr. Tovani, it doesn't appear that you have any questions coming at you. I don't see any hands up online, members of the public or in person. Board members are looking like they don't have any questions regarding this further. And Ray, are you good? Okay, Ray's fine as well. Okay, do I have a motion to approve B, ratification of contract for services with Pedro Torres?
I'll move to approve the ratification of the contract for services.
Okay, I'll second that. So motion made by Clerk McNary, seconded by Carolyn Swanson. Roll call vote, please.
Aye.
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 Motion passes unanimously. Thank you so much. Moving on to action item C, ratification. This is a John Anderson item. Might as well.
C through J's are all.
C through J is all John. So this first one, C, is ratification of contract for services with MPE for, sorry, I should say it out loud, Monterey Peninsula Engineering for emergency water line repair at the district office. And let me just see if there's any questions related to it. And so board, there was an excellent cover sheet on this, I thought. Do you have any further questions? And I hope that didn't sound intimidating, like you shouldn't have any further questions, but please, if you have any, and if any members of the public have questions, now is the time. Anybody. I believe C through J, correct me if I'm wrong, are all generated from the storm.
Well, the first one was actually earthquake.
Oh, that's right.
Then the next ones were all from, and one was in anticipation of the storms, which is, we see D, and then the rest are all tree related.
Okay. I don't see any members of the public online and neither does Louis. So if the board is all right, we can just approve action item C, the ratification for the emergency water line repair at the district office. I'll make a motion to approve it.
I'll second.
Seconded by Dr. Hazen. Roll call vote, please.
Aye.
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 All right, motion passes unanimously. Thank you so much. Moving on to item D, which is ratification of contract for services with MP Monterey Peninsula Engineering for emergency storm drain repairs at the Pacific Grove High School. And if you're all right, John, I don't want to cut you off. If you want to say something, please do.
I'm good.
Okay. But I'll ask the board if they have any questions related to this, and please do
I
ask.
have no
them.
questions.
You have no questions.
Shockingly, yeah.
No, that's great. Brian, do you have something? No. Go ahead, Dr. Hazen.
Not as much a question, but just a comment again, like and I'm not sure exactly it was this one, but the fact that you guys were proactive is just amazing to me. I wish as a homeowner, I had done the same sort of thing because it's amazing, probably the amount of money you save the district by doing so. So I'll just make that comment on this.
Thank you.
Compliment. It's always welcome. Thank you so much, Dr. Hazen. Okay, so the members of the public, I am looking out and I don't see anyone online. I don't see anyone in person either. So I'll make a motion on this. This is item D, ratification of contract for services with Monterey Peninsula Engineering for emergency storm drain repairs at PG High School. If
I'll
anyone-
second.
Oh, trustee Brian, seconded. Roll call vote, please.
Aye.
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 Thank you. Motion passes unanimously. Ralph, did you have something to say or just scratching your ear? Okay. I have my eyes out. Okay. Thank you so much. So moving on to E, this is related to trees, kind of the first of a series of tree items. I do have a question about this board, so I'm going to ask it. If you have any questions, please queue them up in your minds. Are you ready, John?
I think so.
Okay. My question is just, can we replace the trees that we're taking out?
Well, why don't I speak to that as a whole?
Yeah, go ahead.
So I've now consulted with an arborist, walked around, spoke with him about what urban forestry looks like.
Mhm.
And what we need to do with our trees is we need to be a little bit more proactive at getting rid of some of our trees at their end of their life cycle
Mhm.
and then replacing them with new native trees.
Okay.
And so when we plant a new native tree, we're going to, we're going to be 30, 40, 50, 60 years before we have to consider taking that tree down again. If it grows up and is a healthy tree and we nurture it.
Yeah, which I'm sure you will.
Yeah, exactly. So that's kind of the goal that going forward.
Okay, like no more Monterey pines because they're not native, I've heard.
Yeah.
Even though the name sounds like they
Yeah.
are.
More cypress, more oaks.
Okay.
Yes, that would be my preference. The Monterey pines, as we know, they get to 50, 60, 80 feet and then they just fall over.
Yeah,
They're dangerous.
they decide not to
Yeah.
have any roots, so. Okay, that was my question. Board members, do you have anything on this one? Go ahead, Brian.
So, Director Anderson, we already have an existing contract with TOPS, don't we?
Correct. Well, it's
Um,
not necessarily a contract. We've been using them. They're part of the CUPCA,
Okay,
but we also have Pacific, which is part of CUPCA.
okay,
And again, it's just what I've done is in situations where I have the ability to, I'm trying to be proactive and get a couple estimates.
Yeah.
And they're literally, at times they're beating each other by around $100, $200. So we're not saving large amounts of money, but I'm being as diligent as I can with our money.
okay. All right. I figured as much. I just wanted to remember going in the past, looking at contracts for TOPS and so I appreciate the clarification. Thank you.
Okay, I'm gonna go out to the public and see if anyone has any questions about this tree removal and this one was by TOPS at Forest Grove Elementary. And Beth, I see you standing up, so please, you're welcome to the podium. And if anyone online wants to speak, please don't be shy. Just raise your hand and we'll get to you, okay? Just one moment.
Beth Shamos. I remember that we had some kind of a tree policy. I looked it up on our new policy thing and I couldn't find anything. So maybe I'm wrong, but I know that we have in the past, especially when we first did the stadium project, that we were concerned about trees and the overall landscaping. So I know we've in the past have talked about it, and I thought we did have something on trees that regarding planting trees when we took trees out, kind of following the city's model. So anyway, I would just encourage you guys to perhaps, take a look at overall policies on grounds, because, we have a lot of property, and just in terms of how do you want to address any issues. And like now, if you look at the, I'm always walking around the track, and when we put the track in the field and we planted these small trees that have all died pretty much. And so there they are, they're dead. Sometimes they get taken away and sometimes they just sit there. So, but that was a result of a plan when we put that stadium in. And so it's just something that needs to be kept up and evaluated over time. So.
John, do you have sort of, I'm thinking of a database or some sort of I always am into my tickles, some sort of tickling system of how you're going to keep track of planting and maintaining the trees?
Actually, we're going to be planting by zones. Right now, the immediacy, of course, is just the storms and making things safe.
Mhm.
I've got a spreadsheet where I'm tracking how many trees I'm taking down and where they're coming down. I could share that with you.
No, not needed for
And
me.
so I know what's coming out, and I know that I'd like to put the same number back at least, if not double.
Okay,
Okay.
thank you so much. Any members of the public? I don't see anyone online. Thank you to the member of the public in person for commenting. Board, I'm going to make a motion because it feels like that's okay, right? Okay. I'm going to make a motion to approve action E, ratification of contract with TOPS to remove trees at Forest Grove Elementary.
I'll second that motion.
Okay, trustee Otmar seconds. A roll call, please.
Aye.
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 Thank you. Motion passes unanimously. Okay. All right, action item F, ratification for Tope's Tree Service to remove trees at Robert Down Elementary School. And actually, Ralph, can I see a procedural question? Is there any way, because these are also similar, that we can group them together or go more quickly through these? or-
Yeah, that's a great question. Typically for ratifications, we
Mhm.
don't because it's already after the fact.
Yeah.
And so a member of the public hasn't had a chance to see them.
Okay,
You can, however, if you wish to group action items and approve them all as a group, it's not common, you can do it.
Mhm.
But just for the, again, if there's not very many questions, it should go, you can just go quickly, but yeah. I wouldn't recommend grouping it because it's not, the public hasn't had a chance to see it. And I just think it's just, in case there's any questions, it's clear that there were.
okay. I do like to encourage the public to comment, so we'll go through them one by one. We'll just keep marching on. So item F is tree removals from Topes at Robert Down Elementary and the PG High School. I do not have any questions. Board, do you? Okay, I'm seeing no questions from the board. I'm asking the public, please do raise your hand if you have any questions. I don't see any from the public, so I'm going to make a motion to approve action F on Topes Tree Service ratification for tree removal at Robert Down and the high school.
Second.
Seconded by Clerk McNary. Roll call vote, please.
Aye.
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 Thank you so much. Passes unanimously. Moving on to action G, ratification of tree service contract with Topes at the Pacific Grove High School. I do not have any questions, board. Seeing no questions from the board, including the student rep who I have looked at here. No. Okay. Anyone in the online sphere? No one in public either. Okay. Can I get a motion on this one, please?
Happy to make a motion to accept action item G.
Thank you. I'll second. Motion made by Dr. Hazen, seconded by Carolyn Swanson. Roll call vote, please.
Aye.
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 Passes unanimously. Moving on to action item H is also ratification of a tree service with Topes Tree Service and removal of trees at the Pacific Grove Adult School. I don't have any questions, board. No questions. Any members of the public? Thank you, Louis. Can I get a motion on this one, please?
I'll move to approve the ratification for the tree service contract with Topes.
Okay, thank you. All second. So that was motion made by Clerk McNary, seconded by Carolyn Swanson. Roll call vote, please.
Aye.
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 Thank you. Motion carries unanimously. Next up is action item I, which is ratification of a contract with Pacific Coast Tree Service for tree removal at the district office. I don't have any questions, board. Right?
I just have a clarifying
Yes,
question.
go ahead.
I don't know if it's a dumb question, so tell me if it is.
No.
But is this all of these to be removing trees that have fallen or potentially will fall or still up or?
It's a combination.
Okay.
I have 34 trees total that need to go. They've either fallen already or they've partially fallen, leaning, a lot of those, that's why it became an emergency, because what happens is the soil uproots and the tree begins to lean.
Mhm.
Once it gets past, 5 or 10 degrees, it's coming down. And so we try to take them down before they fall and damage things or hurt somebody. We actually had to close the road in front of the high school one day. We had one that was leaning right towards the music building. And so if we don't take them down, they're going to fall and they're going to create problems, much bigger problems. So you're right. It's a combination, some that are about to fall, some that already have fallen. And then we have a few that just look very, very unhealthy. And, now that we've taken a close look, we want to get them again before they fall.
Okay, sweet. Thank you for the clarification.
Thank you for asking that question. I'm smiling underneath my mask, but I don't want to be. be embarrassing. Okay. So action item I, ratification of Pacific Coast Tree Service for tree removal at the district office. I am looking for members of the public who have any comments or questions about this. I'm not seeing any, and I'm not seeing any board comments. So if anyone would like to make a motion, please do. Ray, would you like to?
Move.
Oh, I'm so sorry, Brian. Go ahead.
That's right. No. Sorry.
Am I allowed to?
Ray, Ralph?
Well, actually, you're an advisory member of the board, so unfortunately, you don't have the authority to do that, but we'd love to otherwise. I'm
You
sure.
could advise us that we.
You should. Absolutely.
Yeah, I'll advise you guys to please make a motion on this. Thank you.
Thank you,
Those
Ray,
ask
for
good
doing
questions,
that.
too. Yeah.
He asked
Take that
excellent questions.
advice. And all right, and absolutely, I think that's a great suggestion, Ray. So I'll so move.
All right, motion made by Brian Swanson. Who would like to second it? Dr.
Happy to
Hazen. Okay. Dr. Hazen has seconded it. Roll call vote, please.
Aye.
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 Passes unanimously. Thank you so much. And just for everyone's planning purposes, I do plan on taking a 10-minute break at the end of this, and this is the last one. So after Jay, we're going to take a 10-minute break as long as the board's okay with that. Okay. Last one, item J, ratification of contract with Pacific Coast Tree Service for tree removal at the high school. I do not have any questions. Board. Okay, we've got a member of the public who would like to make a comment, and you are so welcome to do so. It looks like it's either Kari or Carrie. Please go ahead.
Hi, Carrie Serpa. I'm sorry if this was already answered and I missed it, but at some point, will we do some replanting of trees that we're removing? Is that something that's still required by the city when you remove trees? I don't know.
Please go ahead and answer, John Anderson.
Hi, we're actually not under the jurisdiction of the city, being state property, but we do plan to plant at least 1 or 2 trees for everyone we take down.
And Ms. Serpa, we did actually chat a little bit about what types of trees those would be, and Mr. Anderson said they would be native trees, and he's working with an urban forester, or because.
Correct.
Yes, okay. So excellent question. Thank you so much, because we do want to continue to be a grove at Forest Grove, continue to be Pacific Grove, have a grove of trees as much as possible. So it's a really important question. Thank you for asking it. Any other members of the public? Okay, seeing none, I'll make a motion to pass action item J, this ratification and this last ratification of a contract with Pacific Coast Tree Service for tree removal at the Pacific Grove High School. Can I please have a second?
I'll second.
Thank you. Motion made by Carolyn Swanson, seconded by Clerk McNary. Dr. Hayes. Oh. Okay, roll call vote, please.
Aye.
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 Excellent. Thank you so much. Thank you, John
Thank
Anderson.
you all.
Motion passes unanimously. And with that, it is 8:03. I'd like to take a 10-minute break until 8:13, if that's agreeable with the rest of the board, including Ray. Is that okay with you? Okay. All right. Temporarily taking a break for 10 minutes. Thank you.
Good job, John.
8:13, recess is over. The board meeting recess, not like recess on the playground, but moving on to back to the agenda. I should look up and see if everyone is here. We're waiting for Dr. Hayes. Dr. Hasten isn't even here. We'll just give him a moment to come back in. Can I progress without him, Ralph? Can I progress with, okay. Dr. Hazen, welcome back. We almost went on without you. Okay. All right. So moving on to action item, the next action item, actually on the original agenda, if anyone has any questions, there was an action item K, but at the top of the meeting, we actually removed that. That was an item related to a board member travel conference, and that was actually myself. And I have decided I actually don't want to bring it up and don't want to go this year. So that has been removed from the agenda. So we're moving on to action item L, which is first and or final read of a new board bylaw exhibit 9322. Ralph, do you want to speak to this or do you want me to do it?
You're welcome. You're welcome to. It's pretty straightforward.
Okay, I'll do it. So this is the exhibit is in your packet. It is really straightforward, as Ralph mentioned. And all it is a very simple form. It will be, if it's approved tonight, placed online, as well as hard copies given out at board meetings. And this is for folks to request future agenda items. So any member of the public, as well as a board member, is qualified and welcome to submit future agenda items. And our policy requires that they be submitted in writing. And so this is the kind of format. We're just making it easy for people to submit them in writing. Of course, somebody could just send an email as well, but this is just kind of a welcoming way to have a link on our website that says submit a future agenda item here. And then one thing to keep in mind always when you request future agenda items is it doesn't necessarily mean that it will result as an item on the agenda, because perhaps it's something that's already been discussed and decided upon and already in the flow of things. But what you will get is a response and an answer and more information on the item that you submit. Is that correct, Ralph?
Right. Well, it'll come to the board and then the board will need to, our president meeting, and then we'll determine whether or not it qualifies and how we want to address it. And then we can reply back at that time.
Okay. So that's what this is. And this will be attached as an exhibit to our board policy. So once we approve it, correct me if I'm wrong, Ralph, this will go into our Gamut system online. So you'll also be able to see it there. So does anyone have any questions on this? I'm going to look at the board first. Go ahead,
Curious
Clerk McGann.
where it will appear on our website, if we know yet.
I'll probably be under, I should talk to Director Algazi, but I'm
Yeah.
assuming it's going to be under the board link.
Okay.
I'm assuming that.
Of the list of the board.
Oh, that's great. Yeah.
Okay, so Director Algazi said, because you don't have a mic, so you just said you were thinking about putting it on the website above the board minutes. Is that right? Okay,
Thank you.
go ahead, Dr. Hazen.
Just a quick question. I noticed a few items were required. It looked like phone number and email. Is that 100% by law, or is it possible to someone to put something in without adding their phone number, should they choose not to have it included?
They need to have some sort of information so we can contact them, correct, Ralph? I
Mhm.
mean,
Right. Otherwise, we wouldn't be able to respond. We wouldn't be able to respond.
Right, but I was thinking email or phone rather than email and phone, I guess is my question.
so technology wise, you would make both of those optional. That might be a little, go ahead and, yeah, please come to the podium, Director Algazi.
So my current thinking is we can't make one or the other optional based on the system we're using.
Okay, so it sounds like for now, both will be required, and hopefully that doesn't turn someone off, but if any member of the public is listening and feels uncomfortable with that, they can also send just a typical email and not include their phone number in that if they would like. Anyone else? Okay, oh, go ahead, Brian.
So the way this reads, at least right now to me, so somebody fills out the form, it goes to kind of the organizational or the agenda meeting that you do with Dr. Porras. And then that's when it's decided whether or not it ends up on the agenda. Is that correct?
Right. And we'll bring it back to the board, and the board would then either approve it or not approve it on the future agenda.
Okay.
As by policy, pretty much if it's within the jurisdiction, it's something you have lawfully can address it. By board policy, it needs to go on, and unless there's a reason not to, and we have to be very specific about that reason. It'll come to, it would need to come under future agenda after that.
So is it possible though that you could decide that, well, you know, we talked about this 3 months ago and the board doesn't see it at all?
It's possible, and we would report out. So I think if kind of some of the conditions are, if it's not within the jurisdiction, or if the board has felt like this has been a matter of public opinion a sufficient number of times, it's been already addressed and dealt with, the board can also say no, at this point it's done. And those are really kind of the biggies.
Okay.
And then again, I would just suggest that any of those come, we would let the board know which ones.
Yeah, my concern is just that things might get rejected before the rest of the board sees those. I'd like for the board to see whatever comes up, whether it's, whether it makes it or well, most especially if it gets kicked to the curb.
Yeah.
You know, I would like for us to see those.
So what about if we make an addition to, I don't know if we have to do it in policy or if we could make a little note on this form, but it would specify the process. And it sounds like the process would be that any items that are submitted in writing would then be included in the packet and brought up during the future agenda item portion. And then the board could go through them and we could have them listed as future agenda item, like written, written submissions. And then the board should, I agree with Brian, the board should kind of review them unless it's just something that's, inappropriate to print or something, but I doubt we'll get much of that.
Yeah, the board bylaw 9322 already states what will happen with future agenda. So it's already listed in policy. I think it says that matters will be brought to the board with a date and a time if it's within jurisdiction, and typically that would come in the future agenda. So I think the only addition really would be if there are ones that are denied, and you could do those during your present report if you like. I could do it in a certain superintendent. There are venues where we can say this is not included because it didn't fall within the jurisdiction. We could also do that during future agenda as well and just simply say these items were brought forward. The ones that you see are ones that were recommended. And then we could have an asterisk on the ones that weren't and just simply say, while it's noted here, we're not addressing it because.
Yeah, I would say do it under future agenda, keep it in the same category.
Yeah,
is that okay, Brian?
Yeah, I'd be good with that. I mean, I don't think we're going to see a lot of that, but just so that it's in place and in the event it does come up.
Yeah, I like that. Jen, I see you nodding. Laura nodding. Okay. Ray?
I'm nodding as well.
You're nodding as well. Okay, let's go out to the public for this. I'm gonna look at the public in person and then I'm gonna flip over and I don't see anything. Lewis doesn't see anything. Okay, so we're at the point where we can pass this, make a motion on it and vote. I don't want to take away the excitement of making a motion on all these. So if anyone would like to make a motion, please do.
I'll make a motion. Can we make this the final read
Absolutely.
of new board bylaw exhibit 9322?
I'll second. Roll call vote, please.
Aye.
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 Okay, passes unanimously. Thank you. Moving on to the last action item, which is the board calendar / future meetings. Let's start with Clerk McNary on this one.
Sure. Dr. Porras and I had an opportunity to get together and meet about the calendar, and I felt like it was really productive. Some of my initial thoughts about what we should include with the calendar, I think are more like areas the board needs to decide what we want to focus on in order to prioritize how we want to lay that out and utilize the calendaring tool. So I think that's something for us to discuss. As far as what we did add into the calendar, our CSBA policy updates that are going to be quarterly, and then a couple more items with regard to check-ins on board goals and superintendent eval. Something that does not appear on the calendar, but that Superintendent Portas and I discussed was finding a way to add holidays and days or weeks or months that we want to recognize within the district. And I know Mandy sent me a draft of some that come from the California Department of Ed, but I think that's a great starting point. And I would love for our district to be able to determine what we value and what we want to recognize. A starting point for that Dr. Portas and I discussed was possibly checking in with our cultural proficiency trainers. So the staff that are kind of the leaders in our cultural proficiency training to see what what their take was and what input they had in determining what we might want to be recognizing going forward. And there are different ways we can do it, which is wait till the day or the week or the month comes up, or possibly doing something the first meeting of each month and maybe listing, you know, for the month of February, these are the significant dates or weeks or holidays that we want to acknowledge. But just some ideas. I think that is more of a work in progress and a conversation we'll continue having, but that's where we're at. Is there anything?
No, that was great. You covered it.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. That was a great update. Trustee Otmar? Yes. Do you have any comments about what Clerk McNary said?
I do not. I appreciate the update though. I know you were expecting a question, but no.
Sorry. I should have prompted you better on that. Okay. Trustee Brian Swanson.
Just an appreciation for putting in the extra work. Thank you.
Okay. And I have a couple of comments. Let's see here. What is it? Oh, page 148 of the packet, the existing budget table. We've got, I just wanted to make sure, and you're probably already on it, Ralph, but you know, this is the January 19th meeting. And so listed on there is a report on governor's budget proposal and property tax update. I'm guessing those are going to be February 2nd.
Mhm.
Okay. So those are going to move. So that is that question. That was my only question. Okay. Student trustee Ray Avila.
I have no questions at this
Okay.
time. Thank you.
Okay, great. And Dr. Hazen.
Oh, no, I have no questions at all on the calendar, and thank you again for the work
Okay.
you put in.
Let's briefly, Jen and Ralph, did you need direction from us on the calendar on adding, you know, like recognizing certain holidays and months of recognition? Did you need any direction from us on that?
No, I think I'm going to ask, Buck is going to attend the next cultural proficiency training. I'll be at the soup symposium, so I can't be there for that, but to see if the group can discuss the draft that we produced and see their thoughts on it and give some ideas, and then we can bring that back to the board at the next meeting. And then also just by way of direction, in your blue folders, we have the sample calendar. In red were the add-ons that we had discussed. We didn't include in the packet because it was too late and the board had not yet had a chance to see it. None of the items I think are effective for the next meeting anyway. So we could bring the revised, if it's fine with everyone, and this is the place to let us know. If not, we can bring back this revised one for action at the next meeting. So.
Okay, yeah, I think, oh, go ahead, Dr.
Could I ask a question on that? Should we hold off comments on the, since it just came?
No, you can, this is fine right now to talk about it because the board,
Great.
the public will have a chance to see it on the
Right.
next
So
agenda.
my question, the Thursday, May 11th special board meeting on governance, I wasn't sure if there was discussion on ways to incorporate that in our existing calendar. Like, was that a special topic that was a one-time only thing, or is that something we should try to make sure we have in our existing calendar?
I think
before we
we
deal with
discussed that as the optimum date for, that was more of the governance work that the board wanted to discuss and talk about. And we tried to keep it within the scope of the school year. And that was one of the off Thursdays. But certainly if there's a better date, I think we talked about if the board felt there was a different date, we can certainly discuss that. But that seemed like on the calendar, a good place to put it. And that would be in the evening. So it would be a start time up to the board, but we could start it as at 5 and go, 3 hours to usually those, however you want to time it, but we have time to discuss that.
Okay, good question, Dr. Hazen. Anything else? Do you, Clerk McNary and Ralph, you feel comfortable with where it's going? You don't need any more input from us?
I'm good, but certainly.
Okay.
I'm comfortable with it, but if anyone has input, I'd love to hear it.
Okay.
I don't think anybody gets as excited about like calendars as maybe one of us in the room.
I do, but they're a challenge for me. So I'm really thankful that you are working on them because for some reason my brain does not process calendaring very well. So yeah, thank you for this. And I'm going to go to the public and see if they have any comments, and then we will approve it. I don't know if there was any changes for us to approve. No,
No
there
action
wasn't.
required if you don't want.
All right. Any member of the public, I Thank you. Noted. All right. No action needed because it's the same as it was when we started this conversation, but it was a good conversation. So now onto the information discussion item. We've got three items left for the entire meeting. And so info item A is special board meeting planning.
Madam President, if I
Yeah.
may, we still need to address the SARC walk-on, school
Hmm.
accountability report cards. That was that.
Did we determine where we were going to put that on the agenda?
Well, it's action, so it would need to be here if we're going to take action.
Yes, thank you so much for bringing that up. Okay, SARC report cards. Action item N, walk on action item N. Mr. Rogeman's making his way up to the podium.
Thank you, Madam President.
Thank you very much, President Carolyn. Members of the board, I'm Buck Rogeman, the Director of Curriculum and Special Projects. And the walk-on item that we have is the school accountability report cards that are more commonly known as our SARCs for the district. And I wanted to talk to you a little bit about the process of the development of the school accountability report card to kind of give some context for the reason why this is a walk-on item rather than something that appeared on the agenda at the time it normally would. When we build the school accountability report cards, it's really a combination of efforts by multiple parties. We contract with a service called Document Tracking, and Document Tracking does a wonderful job of building the template for the school accountability report cards. And then they also populate all of the data that comes in from the state. So the state releases the data for the school accountability report cards to all of the districts, and the districts either contract out with a company like Document Tracking, or they populate the information themselves once that amount of information comes down from the state. At the same time that that's going on, each of the site administrators has various narrative aspects of the school accountability report cards that they are responsible for filling in. Each one of our site administrators met the deadline that was set for them to do that narrative. And so I just wanted to be sure that the board and the public recognizes that kind of the late nature of this walking on has absolutely nothing to do with the site administration. They did an excellent job of getting the narrative to me that we needed to get. Another aspect of the school accountability report card this year are the physical fitness test participation rates. And those are from the physical fitness testing that took place during the spring. And just like a lot of other data points for our district, the results are very impressive and very high for the participation of our students. We contract with a company called FitnessGram, and we upload our information and our data from that testing, and then they report that to the state, which eventually makes its way to DataQuest, which is where you find the historic records for the physical fitness testing. When our district uploaded the information to FitnessGram this year and tried to get that information back from FitnessGram had lost the data sheet that got uploaded from our district. It's a FitnessGram form, so it's not like we had that form with us. And so our PE teachers were super helpful, went back to the hard copy records that they kept from that physical fitness testing, and were able to give us the participation rate for each one of those tests. The block in getting this data to you sooner was from the state. The state data didn't populate into our documents, our SARCs, until this morning. I got an email late last night, early this morning, saying that that data was populated, meaning that we would be able to proof and assemble the rest of the data that we needed to, and we were able to get the SARCs ready for the board approval today. If you want to look at a comparison of this year's SARC to previous years, the previous year SARCs are all listed on our website going back to 2001 to 2002. It's pretty easy to follow. It's just a grid that has each one of the schools. It has the years listed for the SARC. And so if you want to compare data from this year to 2012, then you'd be able to do that. keep in mind too, when I'm saying this year, it's 21, 22. The SARCs are always kind of 1 year old in that sense, because all the data needs to be accumulated from the year, gathered by us, and then reported out to the public. The reason why time is of the essence is because we have a state requirement to get this data published by February 1st. I will also say that the CDE has not completed all of the data distribution that they need to do for the SARCs. So there are going to be a couple of items missing, specifically related to teacher staffing at our schools, that we haven't got that information back from the state yet. And when that is available, it'll be repopulated to the SARC. And what I will do is give you an update, but it will not be something that will have to be board approved. That it's just the SARCs now that need the board approval for us to meet that February 1st deadline. The SARCs, the 21-22 school accountability report cards are now available for the public if they wanted to go see them. They're on our website. I just want to thank everybody that helped put these together. The information is nothing new to the trustees. It's nothing new to the public. The testing data has been reported earlier in the year. Some of the information that might not be as prevalent or might not be as published are things like the average class sizes and how many classes fall within certain class size designations. But all that is available in that document, as well as assessment of the facilities of the district too. So our director of maintenance and operations, John Anderson, also filled out that facilities inspection tool, which gives the ranking for the facilities at our sites. So even in the midst of trying to battle the effects of the storm, John still did his part too and got that data to us. So just kind of wanted to give you an idea of what goes into the school accountability report cards, and then also kind of give a public explanation of the reason why this is a walk-on item. And I'll happy to entertain any questions.
Okay. Trustee Otmar, any questions or comments?
Not at this time. I'm gonna just kind of thumb through them as we go around, so maybe you could come back to me.
Of course, sure. And I will say, this item, I have not read it yet. It came out, I don't know what time today, but too late for
4
o'clock. So our meeting started at 5. I don't know. Can I ask if any trustee has had a chance to read it yet? A little bit, thumb through it. And so I don't feel like we're shirking our responsibility by approving this tonight, even though we haven't read it, but I will ask, and I'm sure you'll be agreeable, when we read it after this meeting, if we could ask you some questions or something like that. Okay.
Yeah. And like I said, a lot of what you're going to read, you've already seen. And if you have questions about, any of the aspects that go into building the data sets that you see, I'll be happy to come up with any answers. And same with the public. If the public has any questions about the SARCs, I'm happy to take that information as well. Dr. Hayes. Oh, sorry.
Please go ahead.
Just two really quick touch questions. One, I noticed that suspensions looked like they were up kind of across the board, both district and state. And they did mention something about data collected might not be comparable, but I wasn't sure. And if you haven't had a chance to dig into those numbers, again, fully understandable. But if you had thoughts or something to bring up.
I do. If you will recall, in 2021, most of our school year was spent at home. And so there really weren't the kind of situations that arise that result in a suspension from school. And we really had students in school for half of April and all of May. And so when they came back to school in 21-22, we still have an extremely low suspension rate. And you can see that as you go back in other years. But the suspension rate in 21-22 was a little bit higher because we were back in school for the entire year. You bet.
The only other question, and again, I have not gone through fully, but I did notice there were some misassigned credentials at Robert Down, I think it was. Is that something you could just talk to quickly?
You know, I think that Director Mankey is going to be able to answer specific credentialing questions. And so I will defer to her, and rather than put her on the spot this evening, I'm sure it's something we can follow up with you on. Okay.
Yeah, you know, what's the best way? I'm trying to think efficiency wise for the board to ask questions on this item. I'm almost wondering if we should put it on the next agenda just as an item. And then we can all have a chance to review it in the packet like we normally would, sit down with our packets, whatever. What do you guys think about that, Ralph and Buck?
I think it's entirely up to the board in terms of how you'd like to do it. I think if there are questions that can be called in and asked, that's fine.
You'd be open to it.
It certainly, I understand where you're coming from in regards to the public hearing, any questions that the board might have, but again,
It'd probably be a quick item.
we can certainly bring it back as information discussion if you want, but it's really entirely up to you. I think ultimately the action taken tonight, you wouldn't be, if it's information discussion the next time, if there was a feeling that there needed to be further action, we really couldn't, because we needed to get these submitted to the state.
Yes, understood. Okay, board, how do you feel about that? It would just be for a chat, and then the reason I'm proposing that is just so that we're not all five asking the same questions to Buck offline. So go ahead, Laura, sorry.
My personal feeling is that I don't want to hold any of this up, and I don't think this is information that we're going to change. It really is just clarification. So my preference is just to move this through so that we're not getting behind on anything.
Tell you what, if you'd like to, I can start a Google Doc, and as you give questions to me, I can add those questions to the Google document, and then I can share it with each one of the trustees. So you can see the questions that are coming in. I can respond to those questions. I want to make sure that that's not a violation of the Brown Act if I communicate with the entire board.
We would need to make sure that it's not a serial meeting. So in that regard, certainly you can share responses to questions in a sort of anonymous way. So saying we received the following questions, here are the answers, as long as we don't identify where they're coming from to avoid any, reply alls kind of thing.
That's
so
understood.
it probably would be best to do it rather directly through individual email to you, and then you can warehouse them onto a sheet and then reply back that way, which is what we typically do.
Yes, yeah, that's kind of what my thought was, that I would have the sheet.
Yeah.
Rather than have the trustees make the questions on the documents, they could email the questions to me. I could do kind of an FAQ document, and then be able to share that with the entire board.
Okay, and so just to clarify, what I was thinking is we approve it tonight, we take action on it tonight because we need to. And then we can toss it on the next agenda as an info item, just so we can chat about it. Go ahead, Elliot.
A quick thought on that. I fully agree on the approval tonight. For the info agenda, I'm wondering if we could ask also the public to make sure they have a chance, any concerns, and we could evaluate potentially at your meeting with Superintendent Porras to see if there's enough public interest and discussion to put it on. So that way we don't, if we get our answers, most of our questions answered, and there's not a strong need for answers by the public, then we might not need to agendize it for discussion, is my thought, if that's possible.
Yeah, I'm thinking if we approve it tonight on action and we put it on info, we really quickly can just ask the public like we do in the course of the meeting. If they have any questions, they can. If board has questions, we can ask them or not. And it can, it could be a 45-second item or whatever. That's okay. Then you don't have to go through your whole Google Doc situation.
Okay.
I don't know. That's what I was thinking. So I've heard from Dr. Hazen. Clerk McNary, please.
I would like, just given that we all just received it, including the public, I would like an opportunity to review it again during a meeting when people have had time to look
Okay.
at the document and give it some thought.
And
Yeah.
yet approve it on action tonight.
And approve it on action
to
tonight.
keep that
yes.
flowing. Okay, Trustee Brian.
Well, yeah, of course, we need to approve it tonight. My concern about diving in too deeply during a future meeting is that we cover I think some of the questions that are going to come up, we will cover, like we review suspensions and expulsions. Later, we take a look at seabeds, we take a look at all of this stuff. So my understanding of this document, and thank you, Buck, for pointing out too, that it's very easy to find on the website too. I just put it into our search engine and put in SARC and boom, there's, 20 years of data. But just to, keep that in mind as we're asking our questions, that some of these things are routine items that we go through every year anyway. So I
Sure.
don't necessarily want to jump the gun on something that we're going to get to eventually.
Yeah, I know what you mean. At the same time, I could see how this is kind of a wonderful culmination of all that information that we get piece by piece, and what's the harm in just making sure that everyone's clear on it. You can see both sides. Okay, well, how about, I'm gonna make a motion to approve this on staff's recommendation. And if we want to talk about having this on a future agenda item, we can do that in a couple items from now. Okay. So motions on the table. Anyone would like to
I'll
second?
second.
Okay, thank you, trustee Brian. Motion made by Carolyn Swans. Oh, you know what? Let me just double check nobody is in the public, because I feel like. Thank you so much. Okay, seconded by Brian Swanson. Roll call vote, please.
Aye.
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 Motion passes unanimously. Thank you all for that discussion. Thank you, Director Rogman. Okay, moving on to information discussion items. Item A, which is on page 7 of the agenda, special board meeting planning. So this item is on here because as a board, we were talking about having some special board meetings, and just for members of the public, there's 3 different types of board meetings that can take place. There's regular, which is what we have agendized far in or planned far in advance. That's why we call this a regular meeting. These ones on Thursday. There's emergency meetings, which we thankfully haven't had to have one of those in a very long time. Last one I think was COVID, when we all had the pandemic starting. And then there's these special board meetings, which are agendized, but they're a little bit different. We won't have necessarily all of the staff here, because the special meetings are typically for the board to really have some deep discussions about governance. So anyways, starting with trustee Brian Swanson, what is your take on this item?
I'm not sure what the question is. My take on it. I mean, I think where we left it last, or at least where I thought we left it, was that we were talking about a special meeting for new member orientation.
Yes.
So in not being a new member, I don't really have anything to add to that. I think I defer to the new members as far as what are the items they'd like to discuss, or if we want to leave it really broad. But I didn't want to add anything else to the special meeting subject, if we could cover it in our kind of regular twice a month meeting schedule.
Okay. So I will say, and I probably should have mentioned before I asked you, Brian, is CSBA does something called a Good Beginnings Workshop. You probably saw that in the packet. It's a 1-pager. And so that is something that they offer to kind of, I was reading through the description, and that kind of touches on a lot of the things that the newer board members were mentioning. And so I guess the conversation really is the Good Beginnings Workshop something that resonates with what our needs are? And so Clerk McNary, I'll ask you.
I would say yes. And one of the things the workshop specifically speaks to is when you have election of new board members. So I think as we're getting started, some of the things we should be doing before we get into substantive decisions, which we can't avoid to some extent, is figuring out like what our shared values and beliefs are and our norms and protocols. Because I can say just for myself, receiving an email from a parent that was like positive praise, I had to email Dr. Porras because I didn't know if I was allowed to respond, what I could say, what the content of the email could or should be. So I think as far as establishing our norms and protocols, this could be a really useful way to do that. And then we'll have like a foundation to move forward from, and we won't have to do it again for a long time. So I definitely see the value in it. And I would be up for figuring out how we can be flexible and make this work.
Okay. Thank you. Good example. I think it's always great when we can give examples. Dr. Hazen, go ahead.
Yeah, and the dots in my head might now be connecting. Is this what was calendared for May 11th? No, okay, this is different.
No, I guess I'll speak to when Dr. Porras and I met, we talked about how we had included this special meeting planning at the end of the meeting. And so I think the Good Beginnings workshop would be separate, but being able to include some type of planning, and I would say for training, for lack of a better word, like areas that I would love a little bit more training and professional development are like collective bargaining and even communications, you know, our protocols and our norms and what those look like. Cause I can say from where I'm at right now, and I've read through our governance handbook and tried to look at the policies and I still have questions. So I feel like that would be really good to get put together up front. So we all know that we're working from the same, you know, the same place.
Yep, that's really helpful because that makes more sense. This would be something sooner on the calendar. Exactly. Okay, that's one of the things I want to clarify. Secondarily on that, you know, I do agree a lot with the, and especially in the Good Beginnings, the unity of purpose, roles, responsibilities, positive governance, team culture. That I would love for us to work on as a group. And I think that does go beyond the new board member orientation, since now we are a new board. So that is something I would be wholeheartedly in support of. Trainings, it would be good to assess what we all need rather than forcing us all to do trainings that would benefit a few, but 100% on the organization.
Okay, so Elliot, just to make sure, so you're like the Good Beginnings workshop idea to do it sooner rather than later. Okay.
I do. And I'll just say, you know, I'm not tied to this one just because I have not done, probably you or others have done a lot more deep dives into the options available to us. But the CSBA's 4 building blocks of effective governance that we've read about now in a few documents and books, those I think would be really good for us to tackle, whether it's through this or another approach. I'm happy to go either way.
Okay, Trustee Otmar.
I agree. I am definitely in favor. I'm looking at this workshop. I don't know if we can take what interests us most, or if this is just a kind of a one package deal, because this is a 6-hour workshop. It says either over 2 evenings or on a single day during the week. So I'm just thinking scheduling. I mean, perhaps this is selfish, but you know, with the May 11th meeting and then plus 2 additional meetings for 3 hours, it's a lot of meetings. So if there's a way that we can kind of, like what Jen was saying and what you're saying too, is sort of pick out the things that we want to focus on most, I think that would be really productive.
Okay, Ralph, can you find out if we can customize this workshop?
I actually did do that.
Okay.
They don't customize this one because it's a package. It's kind of already put together, kind of sort of a canned. So we would need to work with CSBA to see what they could do as individual pieces, not this workshop, but decide what you want. And then we need to see what consultants are available. I did also, because we had mentioned this at the last meeting, I did speak with Lou Lozano, who has given us folks to come work on these various items before as a facilitator. He's happy to find someone from any office in the state. There's a lot of folks that work directly with CSBA and their attorneys on these things as well. So that's an option. If we know what topics we want, I can speak to him and see if there's someone that can facilitate it. Again, this is, as Trustee Otmar mentioned, there's kind of 2 options here. It's a whole day between 9 and 3, or then 3 hours on Friday, 3 hours on Saturday. So I think if you break it down a little bit, you might be able to get it covered in a 3-hour, depending on the facilitator and the topics you want.
Yeah.
But yeah, this one we'd have to try to find a way. I would need to talk to someone with CSBA to see if they could figure out a way to make that work. But from who I spoke with, they weren't able to, not for this workshop.
Okay, go ahead, Dr. Hazen.
Just another quick comment on that. I did like the pre-workshop process, including individual phone interviews. I thought that might be a good way to maximize time for basically, you know, whether it's through the CSBA or, you know, another facilitator, trying to figure out what each of us is seeking to get out of it. And that might help us unite a more streamlined and common core agenda.
I think sometimes it's hard to know what you don't know yet. So I could see pros and cons of that. I know 6 hours seems like a lot of time, but if you think about how fast 90 minutes goes by in closed session and we're talking about 1 to 5 items, these types of conversations, if they're productive, they can take some time. So I just, so that's my 2 cents on it. Brian, I haven't heard from you in a little bit. Did you have anything to add?
Yeah, I want to make sure that I am not misinterpreted. It's like I'm all in favor of us trying to, it's like for me, it's like whenever the board can have unity of purpose. Like I love unanimous votes too. It's like that's what I'm always looking for us to get there. So I just really want to defer to the new board members, most especially because it's like, what do you want? What do you need? What do you think would be valuable? And so I'm supportive of it. I would rather, if we do this, that it be in 1 day rather than 2, because I think that'd probably be less disruptive for everybody. And there's a cost, I'm sure. Do we have a dollar amount attached to this?
And I need to talk with them about
Okay,
that, yeah.
it'd be nice to know, just for transparency, what is this going to cost us to? So
I'm going to guess in the range of $2,000, right in that.
Okay.
Right about there.
All right. That's good. Not a lot of dough.
Madam President, if I might, just historically thinking back to trainings that we've had in the past, one option as well, whether it's CSBA or whomever, we could have another information discussion item on this special meeting and invite a facilitator to be here to do the pre-facilitation in a public meeting. So then you're hearing that everyone hears the dialogue together. We've done that before in the past. When Sarah Kotz did it, she would come in, listen to the board, have a conversation about sort of what is it you're looking for? And then without engaging the full conversation, and then go back and plan, work with me, and then set up the training. That's one possibility as well. Just trying to throw options out for you.
Yeah. Yeah, I do like that idea of kind of having an ongoing kind of micro governance meeting at the end of each of these already planned for meetings, because I think that can be kind of more gentle on our schedule. So okay, for what I'm hearing is that we do see value in some sort of governance training. We do have 3, which is the majority of the board, who's interested in this. And I agree with Brian, whatever you guys want to decide on is kind of what I want to follow. So where are you guys at now? Laura, do you have?
So as I listen to this discussion, I'm changing my mind about the time constraint. I definitely see the value in it. I agree with what you're saying. I don't know what I don't know. So I feel like I would rather dedicate 6 hours of a Saturday or whatever day it might be to find out what I don't know. So I'm on board with that. If everyone else is, I mean, I see the value.
Okay.
For sure.
Especially once we find out the cost of the CSBA organized one. Elliot, what do you think?
I really, the idea from Superintendent Porras really resonated with me too, of having a open discussion with a facilitator initially to start kind of paring down the edges. Cause I have a lot I could say in a 6 hour, I mean, I agree with you. I think it could be easily filled with time, but I would love for us to optimize whatever time we decide to take and make sure we're doing it as kind of, again, efficiently and with purpose.
Is your concern that because we can't customize this workshop, there would be parts where you're just listening going, yeah, I already know that. I already know that.
And I would like us, yes, I would like us, and I'm not as familiar with this workshop, but I would like us to work towards a solution rather than be told what pathways forward might be, if that makes sense. So the more that we have ownership of the organization, I think the more power of this actual workshop, I think the more powerful could be. Agreeing with you, we don't know what we don't know. I do agree with that, but I'm just worried of mission creep, so to speak, potentially.
I'm always concerned with that with CSBA, to be honest. But let me see if the public has anything that they want to say on this. We haven't checked with them in a little while. No members of the public wanting to speak. Okay. So I do believe the Good Beginnings workshop, because it is for a new entity, whether it be a new superintendent or new board, has built into it a lot of them kind of facilitating our conversations all together. And even though we did just go to CSBA and you, three of you did the new, actually plus Ralph, did the new trustee orientation, we haven't had the benefit yet of all 5 of us, 6 of us, plus Ralph, 7, plus Josh, 8, being here and really kind of like talking about, you know, things together. So I almost want to just roll the dice and say, you know what, CSBA, you did a good job for us on that, on the trip that we just did. They're the ones who wrote the governance handbook. They did our policy redo. At least we can do this. And if we don't like it, we can veer somewhere else next time. And we can direct Ralph to, hey, find us somewhere besides CSBA. We've gone through Lou Lozano's office as well. Honestly, I'm ready for a fresh perspective, so I'm not really interested in going that route again. We haven't done the CSBA one since I've been on the board, so I'm interested to kind of see what they have to bring to the table. So that's my 2 cents. So this is an info item that we can give direction on. I think for sure direction is, can you let us know how much it costs? And do we want to wait before we do anything further? Do we want to hear how much it costs, or do we have other direction to give? So Brian, what are you thinking?
Again, I'll defer to the new members where we are on that. It's like I think it would not be a bad idea. It sounds like it only costs a couple $1,000s too. So I'd be in favor of it if the newer board members want to go that route. And I'll put in the time on that. And it's like, I'm sure that those of us who've been on the board for a while too could still glean something new from these discussions as well. I mean,
and what might be helpful, we'll contact CSBA as early as tomorrow. I'll probably actually see some of them next week too, but and the other question that might be helpful to know the answer to is does the board prefer a Friday, Saturday, or just, for example, a all-day Thursday that's not a board meeting day? Is there a preference? Because they'll ask me that. I'll be want to be able to
Laura,
answer
do you have a preference, like a Saturday from 9 to 3 or something?
If I have enough advance notice, it could be midweek. I just would have to arrange that with my schedule. I'm okay with a Saturday. I mean, that's kind of my day with my kids, but I'm happy to do that. Yeah, just let me know.
Dr. Hazen, timing?
If I could say just one comment, if possible, for the next board meeting, I would love to, I'm sorry to be negative on this one, just because I would like to know what else is out there a little bit too. If there is some more you could report back, Ralph, on what previous boards have done and stuff at the next.
They've done very little.
But I thought there was a time there was somebody that came in and listened to the board come up with.
We had Sarah Kotz come in from Lozano Smith that helped us with a strategic plan, and
she's done governance work with us
board
before.
goals.
This was a while back now, but she's
yeah,
come 2
it's
times
been
for
a
that.
while.
Yeah. And it's not a knock on CSBA, but there were definitely some of the sessions that felt more like an advertisement to me than, and I do not want to spend my time being talked at in that way, if that makes sense. I don't think that's good use of money nor good use of our time, frankly. And so it's not to knock this one, but I would like to just make sure we're exploring options. And in terms of timing, I would have to get back on that. It would be difficult either way. Probably Friday, Saturday would be easiest in some ways for my schedule.
Okay, that's totally good for you to say. So I appreciate you saying that. So Clerk McNary, have we heard from you lately on this?
I am still in favor with moving forward with the workshop. I think it will be valuable for the new board members and for the board as a whole. I'm flexible with regard to scheduling and with regard to bringing the item back. If we get a dollar amount, I'd love to get it back on the agenda for us to move forward on it sooner than later, because these are some of the things like unity of purpose, our roles, our norms, our processes, like as soon as we can get these in place, we will be more productive as a unit. So I would like to see it move forward.
Okay, so you're in favor of this going forward?
Yes.
Okay, Laura, remind me, are you in favor of this going forward?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, Brian? Are you in favor of this going forward?
This one in particular, well, I liked what Elliot was saying too, though. It's like maybe there is something else out there. And so not quite yet. I'd say I would like to see if there's something else out there. I hear what you're saying too. About it's like, we were being pitched some things that by CSBA. There were times when it felt like it was a sales meeting than something other than that. So, I'm a little hesitant quite yet to flip the switch on it.
Okay, I think those are all valid points. I will say, and I don't know if this brings any comfort, is when I have witnessed CSBA been given a directive on what we're looking for, like for instance, when they came and helped us with the gamut policy, they, my experience with that gentleman, he didn't feel salesy to me. He did feel really direct and on it. And then I also have read the governance core, which was created by the one of the presidents of the CSBA, retired anyways. And it had some great core information in it. So I'm assuming, and Ralph can confirm, that this type of workshop is not a trade show. It's not a, because I hear what you're saying about the sales part, and I dislike that as well at the CSBA conference. And yet I realize like that's kind of how conferences are. So this one hopefully will be able to give them a clear directive. Hey, we want to talk, we want to work together, and really just be facilitated by a third party who has expertise in this realm, so that we can all walk out going, okay, like we're on the same page, or we're not on the same page, but we still respect each other and we just have a difference of ideas and not, against each other as people. So I'm for moving forward on this. So I think we have 3 out of 5. I hate for us not to be on the same page. I'm the one who actually found this. I reached out to our PACER probably 8 months ago or something and asked her what they had for this, and that's what she sent back. So I didn't reach out to any other organizations, but I will say MCOE does have also trainings throughout the year if we want to get like a different perspective. Those are usually either through CSBA or through Lou Lozano's office.
Oh, and I can reach out to Deputy Superintendent McFadden at MCOE, and he can let us know if they have something comparable.
Okay.
Because they have really great facilitators as well who are trained through CSBA. So
yeah,
I can do that if you like. I
don't know if it's necessary, because I do think that we're going to roll with this one. I hate to say that.
Just one last thought I want to interject. It's like, and I don't want to speak for Dr. Hazen, although I'm going to, and that I don't think that either of us are saying no.
Okay.
We're just saying, let's breathe for a second. Let's see, is there something else out there that might serve our purposes better?
Ralph, have you seen something?
And we talked a lot about, again, unity of purpose, whatever that, unanimity or whatever. Somebody else can say that word for me, but you know what I mean.
Yeah.
So that's my last thought on it.
Okay.
I'll just say that's exactly my point. I'm 100% for this. Just want to make sure it's the best use of our money and time.
Yeah.
Is this one?
I think we
my
might have
answer.
to take a leap of faith, because we haven't done a CSBA fostered event like this in at least any years that I can think back to.
if you like,
Yeah.
a couple of thoughts again. I could ask CSBA to have someone available at the next board meeting to do a virtual. So you can kind of interview of sorts, just say they can tell us what their vision is and how they feel it's executed, get some input and determine if indeed it's a match or not. That's one possibility. Regardless of which we can put it onto action no matter what, so that whatever happens, we can take action on that meeting or not. We can move it on to the next time. You don't have to take action. So that might expedite once we kind of land where we want to go. And then the other option, CSBA is obviously the go-to for these kinds of things, other than law firms, and every law firm does this. So, and I know lots of them, so it's not, that I can ask around. I'm going to be working with 4 different law firms for the new superintendent symposium. I can ask, Peter Fagan from 3F. I can ask.
You know what? There was an attorney at the CSBA that he was part of the Carmel presentation. He was on the stage with them. I didn't realize that all law firms, or most, let's say most law firms do this type of thing. I have his information if you wanted to see if
Yeah,
he
you can
he
send
wanted
it my
to.
way. So most of those guys do common work throughout.
Yeah.
So, but again, it's part of, that's just me going out looking, not necessarily you all discussing. So I don't want to go too far ahead of what
Yeah.
the board wants to do, because it's, it's not my decision in that regards.
And cost wise, it does seem like if a law firm does it, they're not charging lawyer rates. It seems like they're charging, right? Because like Sarah, she only charged us $1,000 for, that. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So, we should sort of give direction and kind of move on past this one. I'll just kind of go down the row and see what direction you would like to give to Ralph. So, Ray, do you have any input on this? Would Ray be part of our governance workshop?
Absolutely can be up to Ray.
Yeah, as long as my schedule permits, yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
But other than that, I don't have too much to say.
Okay.
I'll leave
It would be
I'll leave it
this
up to
type
you
of
guys.
conversation for 6 hours.
Yeah.
Well, that's selling it.
I'm busy. Yeah, you might be busy. Okay. Okay. Well, thank you at least. Dr. Hazen, go ahead.
Yes, I'm in full support of having this as an action item on the next agenda.
Okay.
I love the idea of having a presentation, though, if it's possible, from one or more.
A sales presentation?
Potentially, or
It's gonna be like.
I mean,
Okay.
but I guess part of my thought is just that, yeah, and I totally understand your leap of faith, but it's one of those things like, I just want to make sure we're maximizing our time on this. And so if we, hear from you and make an action item on it, and we can vote on it after hearing, I'm all in support. Because I do agree, this is something that should be addressed sooner than later. And
So your direction is hopefully February 2nd to have perhaps CSBA and one other come and talk to us about what they can do for us for a new trustee, for lack of a better word, a good beginnings workshop. Okay.
give them 3 minutes each.
Okay, so that would be your direction. Okay, Laura, what would your direction be?
I'm for it. So it would be nice to hear from CSBA. So if at our next meeting, there was someone that could sort of go over it, that would be great. As I'm reading through it, I mean, it does sound like it's really it sounds like a team approach. It doesn't sound like they're going to be sort of maybe dictating where everything goes. It sounds like it's kind of an integrated flow. So I'm comfortable with it, but I don't think it hurts to hear what they have to offer. I'm online seeing if there's reviews. So
Okay, so Laura,
where I'm at.
is your direction to have Ralph bring back CSBA as well as one other?
I don't need necessarily to hear from anyone else because I'm okay with this, but if everybody else is on board with hearing from somebody else, I'm fine with that too.
Okay.
Because we could be given more information and I'm open to that.
Okay.
So, yeah.
Trustee McNary.
Agree with trustee Otmar. I would like to bring it back as an action item and I do not need to hear from another presenter, but if the board would like that, that's fine with me.
Okay. And Brian?
I'm okay with it being an action item on the next meeting. I would like to, if there's a second option, to hear about that. So.
Okay. And I'm the deciding vote. Gosh, I think I'm okay with it just being CSBA as an action item next time. And going forward, I am completely open to the feedback that we all have on this. And if it's a dud, let's talk about that honestly together and we will seek out and find the next group and try to improve each time we do it so that we kind of make sure we find a good fit for us because we don't really have much of a baseline right now. So Ralph, is that clear direction?
It is. I will talk with them and see what I can find in regards to them presenting and talking with you all, and hopefully they will.
Yeah, and the cost.
Yeah.
Okay, sounds great. Okay. So that item is directed, done. No vote needed, correct, Ralph?
No.
Okay.
Anyway, it's information discussion.
Okay. Okay, so second to last item and is the info item B, board agenda regarding land management acknowledgement. Management? So this one really briefly, this was one that I asked about. I've been to several public meetings and where they at the top of the meeting or in their agendas, they will place a land acknowledgement. And the reason for a land acknowledgement is just to show respect to Indigenous elders and cultures that had kind of fostered and taken care of that land much before we've all been here. So I've always found those really informative and moving, and with all of our cultural proficiency work, the cultural, sorry, I'm kind of rambling, but the MCOE had put on a All In for Equity seminar, and I think it was 3 or 4 parts, and I came in as a board member, so I had missed maybe the first one, but I went to, I think, 3, and they were really well done. They, like, everyone you went to, you were like, wow, this is so inclusive. It's positive, but also not glazing over history. It just felt really wonderful. And so they did a land acknowledgement at the beginning of each of theirs. So this is something that MCOE does. And so that's where we actually got this wording, is from Dr. Nunez, who is also one of the esteemed contributors of the district's cultural proficiency program. Okay, I'm gonna stop talking. So anyways, he gave us, I'm gonna keep talking for a second. He gave us this wording, and it's in the packet, and we can decide if we want to put it in our agenda at the top of our agenda, and or if we want to put it as part of our opening remarks at our meeting, if one of us wants to read all or part of it. So that's what's on the table right now, and I'll start with Ray.
So it would be read there before the meeting, like during the opening statements and stuff like that.
Yeah, it could be read, or it could just be printed in the agenda. And it's on page 152 of the packet, so in this stack. So you can go to 152, and I'll let you read that. I'm going to go to somebody else and then I'll come back to you, okay? So Dr. Hazen, how are you feeling about adding a land acknowledgement?
So I just want to say I am 100% in support of that. For this practice of land acknowledgements, and it's something that is regularly done at meetings that I attend for my work.
Excuse me just a second. Your mic.
I knew that was going to happen to me one of these days. So
good job, Brian. I didn't even notice that. Okay.
To say again, I'm 100% in support of recognizing the underlying issues that have led to the practice of land acknowledgements. And, you know, history, we're doing better, but still, by and large, history overlooks the reality that Native Americans faced here in North America when Europeans arrived. So saying that, I mean, this one in particular is longer than most of the land acknowledgements I've heard. And the big question that I just have is, have the local communities been polled to see how they feel about this issue? And maybe that has been done at the county level, which would be hugely helpful to know, because I mean, I feel ill-equipped to make the decision on behalf of, you know, considering that, because I've read through a number of articles following this discussion point saying that, you know, land acknowledgements have recently come under criticism in many corners of the Indigenous world, calling them performative token gestures and largely meaningless. Others have said land acknowledgements fail to acknowledge the deep injustices Native people have endured over centuries. So I just want to make sure that we're not doing something that the people we're trying to help would view as performative, if that makes sense.
Sure.
If they're on board, I am 100% on board as well.
Okay, let me pause and ask Ralph. When you talked to Dr. Nunez to get this wording, did you get any feel from him if it had been vetted by Indigenous folks in the area?
I did not. And knowing him here, I'm sure he went through a process, because he's pretty particular about that. And likely this was pulled from very similar kinds of meetings. I mean, the tribes that and the people that he's noting in here, I'm sure are all very supportive of that process. But so yeah, I'd have to ask him. I don't know.
Okay, Trustee Otmar.
So I absolutely agree that I'm in favor of a land acknowledgement. I think this is lengthy. if this is something that's going to be included in every packet or at the beginning of each packet or even read, my concern there is that it's not read, it's overlooked, or if it is read at the beginning of each meeting, eventually it's going to just be this kind of collection of words that don't have meaning. And it's just going to be sort of this gray blob, and we're going to lose the intention. And so what I was thinking, and I don't know how anyone else feels, but my thought about this is this could be something, maybe we have a land acknowledgement at the beginning of each meeting with a brief, meaningful statement, and then we follow it with 30 seconds of silence, or just taking a moment, because I feel like silence, that doesn't ever get old. You can have a heartfelt moment where we are acknowledging that. The other thing I was thinking of is, potentially maybe reaching out to tribal council, somebody at the tribal council or representative, and finding out about including natives that were in this area or in the tribal council, to include them in our graduation ceremonies or in our promotion ceremonies, because I think that's more of a communal recognition. It's an honoring, whether they do that through song or story or dress or whatever it might be, but giving the space and including them in our sort of communal ritual of graduation and promotion. So I think that is more honoring. This strikes me as something that could end up not being what we're trying to express, if that's making sense. So, but I am in favor of it, just maybe not in this format.
Okay, and at graduations and promotions, there's hundreds of community members there, and it would take place in once a year. So maybe you're saying that to say it less often, but more
More meaningful.
Okay.
I know at Chico State, they do something like that. At different colleges, they do that. I don't know at,
CSUMB.
I don't know if they do that at CSUMB.
Mhm.
I would imagine maybe they do something, but I'm not familiar with that. I just know that Chico State does do something like that.
Okay.
But it's a thought, and even reaching out to somebody on tribal council just to ask, how would this feel for you? Or,
Yeah, how can we honor you?
Mhm.
Mhm. Okay, thank you. Clerk McNary.
Thank you. I am in support of the land acknowledgement and take seriously your comments. I think that at this time, an acknowledgement feels appropriate to me. We can always decide to do something different, if it should lose its shine or no longer be appropriate. I don't think a land acknowledgement is attempting to undo any wrongs. It's an acknowledgement of what came before us. So I do love the idea of honoring Indigenous cultures. I think this is just more a way for us as a body who now sits in this space to honor those who came before us. I do understand the concerns about reading it before every meeting. While I don't think we should be saying this is too much to read, because this is really valuable information. And I think it is important to honor those who have been here before us. I would love to incorporate it some way, whether that is in our agenda or an opening remark, or at least the first time for our first meeting. So we read it in full, and then we have an acknowledgement of it moving forward. But I would be in support of a land acknowledgement for the board moving forward. And thank you for bringing this to the board.
Okay, thank you. One thing that did come to mind just really quickly is since we have the cultural proficiency kind of program happening, maybe one thing we can do, instead of having these one-off items that I'm sure I'm not going to be the only one who has an item that's related to cultural proficiency, perhaps we can build in and ask if the scope of the cultural proficiency work can include the board, and we can have a discussion with experts and have that be more productive than just like me bringing one thing and then somebody else bringing one thing, and then it's just kind of disjointed. So we have more of a plan that we can all agree with. So Brian?
Well, I get the intention. I think it's really broad. It talks about Monterey County. It doesn't talk about Pacific Grove. We're this little postage stamp, but I think that's significant. And, and again, I understand wanting to acknowledge the indigenous people of this particular area, but Monterey County is huge. This doesn't touch at all on some of the other stuff that happened here in Pacific Grove as well, with the Chinese fishing village that I think could be and should be acknowledged in some way. So I'm concerned about it being read before every meeting, again, when it's just so broad. So as much as I understand and appreciate the intent, in order to support it, I'd really need to see something different than what we have right now.
Okay, and Ray, we'll come back to you.
Yeah, I kind of agree with Trustee Swanson. I think maybe either condensed specifics or things like that. I love the idea of it though. But yeah, I pretty much mainly agree with Brian Swanson.
Okay. Let me see if there's anyone in the public and anyone here in person who wants to speak. Ralph?
Nope, I'm just teaching.
You'd
Catch me
be-
every time I'm itching.
If you were at an auction, you'd be buying a lot of things over there. Okay, I don't see anyone, members of the public. Okay, so I really love this discussion that we're all having because well, we haven't had it with this board, so it's really great. So so what I'm hearing is the majority of the board isn't quite sold on this specific land acknowledgement, but would really embrace the idea of some form of respect to previous generations and previous peoples who were here much before us. And so, Ralph, I want to hear your thoughts on what you think we can do going forward to incorporate this. I tossed out an idea, maybe adding to the cultural proficiency kind of group of things. What are you thinking?
Well, I think right now the cultural proficiency group is tasked with a particular.
Yes.
But I think ongoing, beyond that, for sure, we can begin to do that and talk more with Dr. Flores and Dr. Nunez to see if there's something that we can put more regular. I think that will be probably next year.
Okay.
But in the interim, I think it's certainly a beautiful acknowledgement. I think I agree that it's very broad spectrum. I think at the time for what the MCOA was doing at the time, it was very relevant because it spanned folks from all across the county.
Yeah, there were 400 of us there, even from out of county.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
So I think my only thought as I listen is that there are other indigenous populations or other groups that aren't acknowledged here, we may want to open this discussion up to the community more to get a feel for that. I think you may find that it's going to open a much broader discussion.
Yeah, I would
for
love
sure. And I'm not sure where it will land necessarily in that regards.
Okay.
But I think there's probably some not homework, discussion that the community would want to have around this in a more detailed way. I don't know if you want to have Dr. Nunez come and talk more about it and lead a discussion with it and the community, since he's pretty well grounded in this work, but that may be a way to also talk about it. Just some thoughts. Yeah.
So let me just confirm, because when we did when we agreed on the cultural proficiency kind of 3-year plan, the old board did ask for there to be an aspect of it that worked with us as a board.
Yes,
so that's
coming.
built in. And you're saying that's probably next year's time. Okay. I'm okay waiting until that is in their flow, because I like to respect like the agenda and the process, and that this isn't an emergency in my opinion. So board, would you be okay? Do we want to just table this until the cultural proficiency team comes to us and we have kind of our workshop on that? What do you think, Ralph?
Again, that's a long leap away. I don't necessarily think you want to connect right now the work that's happening with the workshop team to this. This seems almost a little bit different in regards to the work currently that's happening. And I don't think you need to wait for that discussion for that group.
Okay,
to have the dialogue. I think, again, there are other resources. I mean, again, I say Dr. Nunez only because his name is here, but there are other resources of folks that could come. I mean, certainly, you could invite, members of the tribes to come and talk. I don't know. Again, he may be able to coach for that. I don't know that you necessarily have to wait if it's important
Okay.
for the board.
then let's not wait, I guess.
Can I make a comment?
Yeah.
I think it would be a good idea to reach out to somebody like from a tribal council or a representative so that we're not moving forward too quickly and we're doing something or
Yes,
starting on something where, we have the best intentions, but our intentions
yes, fall flat or create
end up
harm.
being skewed. So
Yes,
I think it would be best to start there and gather as much information as possible and get the perspective of the people that we're trying to honor
okay.
first.
Okay, and Ralph, you said you wouldn't mind following up with Dr. Nunez on that because he most likely is aware of
Mhm.
what specific indigenous peoples were in the Pacific Grove specific area, because Brian had a good point about having it be really specific to PG.
Yeah, I think I'll ask him and see what he
Okay.
knows. And it may, again, I think some of the tribes that are mentioned, I'm certain were also in this area. So, and then the follow-up question will be then, is there more than just the native people, the
Mhm.
indigenous people that were here that you want to honor as part of this? So.
Dr. Hazen?
I just wanted to echo exactly. I didn't want to come out too strong against this because I am 100% for it in practice, but as trustee Otmore said, I just want to make sure we're doing it right.
Yeah,
And
sure.
I think can't be done without the right voices in the room.
Yeah. Okay, Brian, go ahead.
Yeah, just another thought too. I think we have an opportunity here too it's like I want to bring us back to what is our job here, right? And we're here to serve the students. So how do I think we have an opportunity to combine this all. It's like make it an educational opportunity for our students. I don't know what we do presently curriculum wise to bring that all in, but I think there is a way to do that, to honor the people that were here before and make it teachable as well, and just put that all together in some way. And so then we're still doing what we're supposed to be doing, which is making sure that our kids get a good education.
Mm-hmm. Ralph?
Nope.
No,
I'm
no
just writing a
comment?
note here.
Okay. I thought perhaps you had input on if we're already teaching something like this.
Well,
or-
certainly it happens in a lot of our history classes, nothing to this kind of context though. So
Okay.
I mean, it's, yeah. I think
Okay. Okay, so go ahead, Dr. Hazen.
So just a quick thought on that is I don't know if it would be something appropriate for potentially leadership council, like if there's something they'd want to take a role in, potentially helping us work on a statement such as this.
Yeah, I could definitely bring that up with the class and Miss Selfridge herself and everybody.
If the board, sorry. If the board thinks that would be a useful thing, I don't mean to.
I do. Anyone else? Anyone else? Yeah. Okay.
For sure.
Okay, so Ray, you're gonna bring that to your class, see how they feel about it, see if they would like to kind of contribute to that and maybe what they wish it could be. Okay, does that make sense? That sounded kind of a vague directive, but you understand it? Okay. Okay, wow, okay. And I'm looking around, I'm gonna check and see if the public has anything that they want to say to us. Nothing on this topic. Okay, so Brian, you're just moving your folder. Okay, so that discussion is gonna keep going, but we don't really have an approval or anything like that on that acknowledgement tonight.
Right.
Ralph, you're gonna check with Dr. Nunez. And Ray, you're gonna check with your class and kind of bring it up to them. And you're welcome to take all those documents you can take with you. You can keep them. Okay. Okay, so moving on to the last item tonight, and it is 9:33. So item C, future agenda items. I will open this up to Ray, starting with Ray. Do you have anything that you would like us to talk about at a future meeting?
I do not at this time off the top of my head. Thank you.
Okay, no problem. If in the course of between now and the next meeting, you think it's something, please do bring it up during this time because we would love to hear from you. Okay, Dr. Hazen, do you have a future agenda item?
No, I think we addressed those. Do we want to make sure this is on the next agenda though?
The SART cards?
Land acknowledgement, sorry, I was thinking.
Oh,
Or do we want to keep
gosh.
that? Do we want to table it and say, let's gather some information first?
I feel like we're tabling it until we hear from Dr. Nunez and maybe Ray. Is that what everyone else? Okay. But I do appreciate you asking that because clarification is always worth asking. So, and then, Clerk McNary, please.
I was hoping we would get an update on our cultural proficiency training soon, like where we're at, what's next, maybe even hear from staff who are the trainers. Kind of where they're at and how it's working. Another item I had was a presentation on our health education offerings that we have for all levels, just so we can see where we're at. And then the last thing I had, which I think President Carolyn, you touched on when we were talking about the land acknowledgement and earlier today, when I was thinking about it, I was thinking, oh, wow, the staff is doing cultural proficiency training and then the board is not. And I don't know what that would look like for us, but I would really love some type of information, training, education so that we can be in line with what staff is learning. I think those were the ones I had. And then with regard to the skate park, do we have any update, even just like the survey results or anything?
Nothing. I left a line with the city manager, but I haven't heard back yet. So
Okay.
not surprising because they said they'd reach out to us when they have enough information.
Got
So,
it. Okay. And do we have any idea? We're just in a holding pattern.
Yeah, we're in a holding pattern.
Okay. Thank you. Those were the items I had for today.
Okay. And board, do you agree to add those items? Are you all okay with all of those? Okay. And trustee Atmar, do you have any future agenda items?
I do. I would like to, and this is actually something I think was maybe last meeting that you brought up,
okay.
President Swanson, and that is universal dyslexia screening, early. So I don't know when dyslexia screening is happening now. Do you know?
We're working on getting an update for you all on that. So that was where we left off last time.
Okay.
Director Rogaman and Director Davies are putting together some information that they'll be able to get to you to tell currently what is happening and then in a piece of what the legislation was about. So that's forthcoming to you. And then at that point, I'm sure we can. Go from there.
Okay. Can we put it on the agenda? I just want to make sure that that's not something that drops off. I feel like extremely important. So if there's a way to just almost like placehold it so it's in front of us and we don't lose track. Is it possible
That's
do
up to
that?
you all. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I had it on, so I made this tickle board of items and each one is a month. And so I have dyslexia screening in February. So what we could do is just pull it off of my tickle board and put it here so that it's visible for all of us. And February might be too soon because I realize February is our next meeting. So maybe March, because Ralph's nodding his head. So would March be agreeable to everyone to put on?
March.
Okay.
Mhm.
Do you have that noted, Ralph?
Mm.
Okay, thank you so much.
That
Let me
was it.
see who's next. Trustee Brian Swanson.
Nothing at this one. I'll save it for the next one.
Okay, you sure?
Yep.
Okay. And then the only one that I had is the SARC cards, just as an info item. Just give the public an opportunity and us, honestly, to read them leisurely while we read our packets next time and ask questions. So you've got that one too, Ralph, right?
I do.
Okay. Ray's gonna think on it and maybe bring something back. And Ray, if you have an idea and you're thinking like, I'm not even sure if this would be a future agenda item or not, you're always welcome to ask Ralph because you are our student connection to Ralph. So he definitely wants to hear from you and hear your questions. I know that for a fact. So, looking around, anything else? I'm gonna go to the public for future agenda items and then we're almost done. Okay, members of the public who are still on, thank you for still being on. It's 9:38 and you're welcome to raise your hand and add a future agenda item if you like. Anyone in the room? It's like so sleepy. Okay. All right, everyone. Meeting adjourned. It's 9:38.